theyeshiva.net.
Yud Chesam and Beis, right? We're in the middle of the page. Itmar, right? Okay, Yud Chesam and Beis around, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16 lines from the bottom. The line starts, L'seder Puranius, Itmar. The Gemarah concluded the discussion why the Mishnah would not count Tevis and Tammuz as months when the Shluchim went out. And the reason is because in the time when the Mishnah was written, it was a time when there was no Gzeres HaMalchus. There were no terrible decrees of the empire. In fact, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, the editor of the Mishnah himself, was on very good terms. He was one of the best friends of Antoninus, the Roman leader, the Roman emperor. It wasn't a time of Shalom. The Jews, of course, were in exile. They were under Roman rule. And there was no Beis HaMikdash. But it was not time of Gzeres HaMalchus. And therefore...
This was the Chatz Esav also in the...
Yeah.
The Rashi.
Right. Lo'oim Eloim Yematz. Me'olam Le'Pascha, yeah. So that time, some fasted and some didn't fast. It was a choice, and different communities behaved in different ways. And therefore, Bezdin didn't feel compelled to send out shluchim for those 2 months. Where Tisha B'Av, because of the stringency of the day and the seriousness of the day, everybody accepted on themselves to fast, even though that was also voluntary. Because the Pasuk enumerates all of them and puts them into one category. So for Tisha B'Av, they sent shluchim because people accepted the Taanis. And once people accepted the Taanis, they had to fast, and they sent shluchim. Now the Gemarah continues. A new question, an interesting question, which has to do with a piece of Jewish history, and it's going to be connected to the Psukim, the Pasuk in Zechariah that we discussed above. Itmar, we learned the following debate. Rav Reb Chanina said, Batla Megilas Taanis. Once the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, the book known as Megilas Taanis, the scroll of fasts, is gone. It's batl, meaning it's not relevant. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amri, Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi disagree. They said, Loi batla Megilas Taanis. What is the meaning of this? In the time of the Tanoim, approximately 100 years before the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash, a pamphlet was written. It was called Megilas Taanis. It was written by a man named Hananiah ben Chizkiah, who was in the time of the Tanoim, a century before the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Hananiah, the son of Chizkiah. And Megilas Taanis is an interesting booklet that we have today. It includes 35 dates of celebration that most of us don't know anything about. It goes through the calendar and discusses 35 extraordinary, some miraculous, but all of them very beautiful, amazing, thrilling events that helped the Jewish people throughout the time of the Beis HaMikdash. And as a result of that, the Hakamim said, you're not allowed to fast on these days. They would celebrate the days. How would they celebrate them? You weren't allowed to fast on these days. In some situations, you weren't even allowed to have a hesped, a eulogy on these days. This was a day of cherishing and celebrating the days. Part of it is Chanukah, one of it is Chanukah, one of it is Purim. Sure. When? In Megilas Taanis? Well, yeah, I mean,
comes first usually.
Yeah, I mean, it was during Bayis Sheni, so the whole davening was a different. Wasn't our davening with with the carbonis, with everything.
We have this book. We have
Megilas Taanis, yeah.
It's not lost.
Huh?
It's not lost.
No, it's not lost. Batla doesn't mean lost. We have it. Batla means it's not relevant anymore. So now the question, does this still apply today? I mean, this was a very serious takana of Chazal that they already made in the middle of Bayis Sheni with a sefer called Megilas Taanis. It's called Megilas Taanis. Why is it called Megilas Taanis? At the end, they also have a list of fast days, so they named it by the end, even though most of it is Yom Tovim. It's called a Megillah. Rashi says elsewhere because, remember, Megilas Taanis is very significant because of another reason. I think it's the first chibur of Taira Shabbal Peh. At that time, the rule applied still that Dvarim Shebeksav Iyat Rashay Lichtav. I mean, Dvarim Shebal Peh Iyat Rashay Lichtav. There was a real rule. Torah Shebal Peh could not be written down. I mean, people could take notes from Shiurim, they sat at, but as a chibur, as a book, you weren't allowed to write down Torah Shebal Peh. Later, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, due to save Torah Shebal Peh, he decided that we have to write it. Eis Lasses Lashem Meferir Torah Sechem.
You didn't need it.
Huh?
You weren't allowed to.
No. K'soev l'chas hadvarim ha'ela, Torah Shebal Peh had to remain an oral tradition transmitted from Rebbe to student. And Torah Shebeksav written.
Torah Shebeksav was not allowed. Torah Shebeksav was not allowed to be said by Peh with the same that we still have.
Megilas Taanis was the first thing that was written down in order to preserve it. And that's why it's called Megillah. That's why they called it Megillah. It was a unique thing that they wrote it down.
It's like in the storybooks. Not,
yeah, it's a list.
like Navi. The Navi also was...
Navi is Torah Shebeksav. Tanakh is Torah Shebeksav. Megilas Taanis is the Torah Shebeksav. That's Torah Shebeksav. Of course that was written down. What's the question? This was not Torah Shebeksav.
This is like in his storybook.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
But I've seen he goes to bottle because Megilas Esther. So that means bottle means not relevant. The Megillas are going to become bottle.
Yeah, no, but it's still Torah Shebeksav. Yeah, but that's Torah Shebeksav. So now the question is, so for example, I'll just give an example. We'll say in Megilas Taanis that from Rosh Chodesh Nisan till 8 Nisan, till Ches Nisan, was a special Yom Tov. Why? Because the Tzdukim had a huge debate with the Hakama. The Tzdukim felt that every week somebody else should contribute the carbon tamid in the morning. 1 week, you brought it, another week, he brought it, another week, he brought it, you brought the sheep. The Chacham said, you're not allowed to do that, it has to be brought from Klal Yisrael. You can't bring a donation to the carbon tamid, and that's why you had to have the Machzas HaShekel, whatever. It was a big debate. They defeated them in the debate, and they made it a Yom Tov. There were different miracles that happened, different events that happened. This Gzeira was off, this Gzeira was off, this community was saved throughout the year. So Megilas Taanis records these 35 holidays. The question is, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Is it still relevant? It comes today, one of these days, am I allowed to fast? Am I allowed to do a hesped? Rav Reb Chanina said, Batla Megilas Taanis. It's not relevant anymore. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yeshua said, Loi Batla Megilas Taanis. The obligation still exists. So the Gemarah now explains the views. Rav Reb Chanina Amri Batla Megilas Taanis. Rav Reb Chanina hold Batla Megilas Taanis. And let's see Rashi. What's Pshat Batla Megilas Taanis? Rashi says, Yamim Tovim shekavu chacham ma'idei nisim sheiru behem v'asrum b'tainis v'yesh mem av behesped v'kosvu b'megila achas ilein yoy maya deloyli sanabu chuli achshav shecharav abayis batlu mutarim behesped b'tainis. So Rashi defines what Megilas Taanis is, the holidays that the Chachamim established as a result of the miracles that occurred. And they prohibited these days to fast, and some of them even to make a eulogy, and they wrote it down in one scroll. Now that the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, these holidays are irrelevant, meaning I'm allowed to fast on all these days. Why? Because Hakama, this is what they said. Let's go back to the pasuk of Zechariah Perek Ches. Tzoma Revi, Tzoma Chamishi, Tzoma Shvi, Tzoma Asiri. Yil lebeis Yehuda lesasin ulesimcha lemadim tovim va'emes va'ashalom ahevim. What did the Gemarah explain? Hakama. What is the meaning of the pasuk? The meaning of the pasuk, is it a fast day or is it a happy day? So the Gemarah explained, Rav Papa explained. Bizman sheyesh shalom, yil lesasin ulesimcha. Ein shalom, tzoyim. V'hanachnami kihani. We learned, when there is peace, when the Gentiles don't dominate the Jewish world, and the Beis HaMikdash is standing, that's called Yeshalom, then Sasin o Simcha. Then all these days, whether it's Tisha B'Av or Asar B'Tev, Shavasa B'Tammuz, Tzam Gedah, have to be days of festivity. What do we mean they have to be days of festivity? What do? You're not allowed to fast. You're not allowed to make a hesped. Ain't Shalom when there's no Shalom. Meaning the Jewish people don't have independence, and the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. Now, Tzayim, it's a fast day. Or as the Gemarah said before, in that itself there were two divisions. If there was also Gzeiris, it's a time of fast. If there's no Shalom and there's no Gzeiris, then you can choose what you want. Nu Hanachnami, these holidays of Megilas Taanis, Kihane, have exactly the same status. Remember, these 4 fast days in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash were Sason and Simcha and Bayadim Tovim. Right? In his man Sheyash Shalom, it's Sason and Simcha and Bayadim Tovim. Certainly when the Jews ruled and were independent. So he says, it's like Megilas Taanis, where there were other days of Simcha and Bayadim Tovim.
What was the special...
No Hesped, no Taanis.
Why were these days Tumor, and so on?
Because it was something bad, and then Venafochu.
I guess the transformation, Venapechu, this Hapcha, Chashoichel and Nahira. So now Megilas Taanis is the same status. You were celebrating in Bayesheni, I understand. Now Ein Shalom, there's a Churban Bayesheni. What happens to all these Yomim Tovim? Just like the 4 days. Went back to fast days, or at least not celebration days. Here too. In the Manabayas, they were Day Simcha. Now, after the Churban, Bottle, Megilas Taanis. I'm not telling you to fast on these days. We're not saying to fast on these days. But we're just saying, if you want to fast, you could fast. It's not a day of Yom Tov. That's the shit of Rav Chanina. They're using this pasuk as a model for Megilas Taanis. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Amri Bottle, Megilas Taanis. No? Why? He says, you can't compare. Hani hu de Talinu Rachmana bebinyan beis hamikdash. The 4 fasts and the 4 days of Simcha, it's clearly that the Taira connected it to the building of the Beis HaMikdash. Why were these 4 fasts established? Because of events surrounding the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. Asara B'Tevis, the city was besieged by Nebuchadnezzar. Shivasa B'Tammuz, the walls were breached. Tisha B'Av, the Beis HaMikdash was burned down. Tzom Gedalia ben Achikam was murdered. And the Gemarah said before that Bisasam Shel Tzadikim is Kisreifas Beis Elokeinu. In other words, it was an extension of Churban Beis HaMikdash. So now I understand when the second Beis HaMikdash gets rebuilt, you say, Sasan Simcha L'Ma'adim Tovim. The walls are not breached. Beis HaMikdash is not burned down. It was rebuilt. So it comes back to Sasan and Simcha. Now the Beis HaMikdash gets destroyed again. You're back to your mate sign. In other words, the whole institution of these 4 is totally in the Binyan Beis HaMikdash. So therefore, the Sasan and the Simcha exist as long as there's a Binyan Beis HaMikdash. So now when the Beis HaMikdash was taka destroyed, the first Beis HaMikdash...
No. In the back room by the court, right?
So when the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, they were enacted. When the second Beis HaMikdash was rebuilt, they were transformed to holidays. When the second Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, they go back to fast days. Aval Hanach. But these holidays in Megilas Taanis, kaimi. They exist as they existed. They're not depending on the Binyan Beis HaMikdash and therefore eliminated with the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Rashi says, Ein Shalom Tzoim v'Alfa Gavde Bizman Abayis Karinu Me'adim Tovim. This is the shit of Rav Chanina. We see that Yomim Tovim could become fast days after the Churban. So Hanachnami, the Megilas Taanis, Ki Hani Mashvin Alu. We compare them to the fast days. Ki Hechadahani Batli Haninami Batli. These become irrelevant. These become irrelevant. Say Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yeshua, you can't compare. The 4 fasts is Talinu B'Binyan. They have Churban Hukvul Etzayim. What made them a fast day was the Churban. Why they have binyan hukvul yamtiv. What made them a yamtiv is the binyan, the construction of the second Beis Hamikdash. Shekshenivne bayis sheni. When the second Beis Hamikdash was built, shalchu bnei hagoyla. The Jews living in exile in Babylonia sent a message to Yerushalayim, and the question was, ha'efke b'chodesh hachamishi hi noze kasher asisi zakama shana miyom hachurban. Should I still continue to cry in the 5th month and separate from pleasures on this day, like I did many years from the day of the Churban? They want to know if they should continue celebrating mourning on Tisha B'Av. Like it says there in Schaya, Sheshivim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kitzamtem Usvoyed B'Chamishi U'B'Shvi V'Zeshivim Shana V'Goymer U'Mikan V'Eilech Yu L'Sasan U'L'Simcha L'Ma'adim Tovim. It's clear that when the Beis HaMikdash was rebuilt, they're like, should we continue mourning? So he says, no. Now it should be l'sasan l'simcha l'ma'adim tovim. So it all revolves around the Beis HaMikdash. Got it. But the holidays of Megilas Taanis don't revolve around the Beis HaMikdash. They were different Yemei Yeshua that the Jewish people experienced, Gewaldike days that existed by the Beis HaMikdash. Even the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. There's still great days that happen. They're not about the Churban versus the Binyan. So therefore they have a different shit, and Megilas Taanis still applies.
How come they don't talk about Taanis Esther?
That's a great question. In Gemarah, there's no mention of Taanis Esther anywhere.
No?
No, nowhere. Not a mention of Taanis Esther in Gemarah.
It was already.
It's not one of the fast days. It's not one of the fast days of that we talk about, and certainly not in Tanakh and not anywhere in Gemarah. You don't have a mention of Taanis Esther, nowhere.
In the look, it's Mechish Ktsas.
Huh?
The Taanis is a Taanis that's a little weak. It's called a weak Taanis.
Yeah, but it's a very big debate. How did it start? When did it start? And why did it start? And who started it? How, when, why, and who? It's not so clear. All the other Taanis, it's clear exactly when it started, how it started, why it started, who started it.
When it stopped.
When it stopped, I mean, we know Yom Kippur, we know Tisha B'Av. I mean, okay, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon have a debate about Asar B'Tevis, but generally it's clear, very clear. Right, I'm saying Taanis Esther, it's a complicated fact. It's complicated in terms of origin, but it's not mentioned here. No, that would be Tzem Hashnei Messer. It's not part of the pasuk. I mean,
Story that happened before this.
the story of Purim happened, but the story of Purim is not the story of Taanis Esther. The story of Purim is a story of Purim that's mentioned in Megilas Taanis. Purim is a Megilas Taanis, Taka.
Purim says also in the Mishnah.
For what? For Shluchim. Yeah. Meisiv Reb Kahana asked a question. On whom? On Rav and Rebbe Chanina. Maisa, there's a story of a Gazru Taanis B'Chanukah B'Lud. It was the holiday of Chanukah, and in Lud they decreed a fast day. There was some crisis, some challenge, and they made a Taanis in Lud. V'yara Rabbi Eliezer v'rachatz. On the fast day, on Chanukah, Rabbi Eliezer publicly displayed the fact that he's not acknowledging this fast day. Generally, when there's a fast day, so publicly, you don't engage in entertaining pursuits. Rabbi Eliezer went down and he bathed publicly on Chanukah. And Rabbi Yeshua went v'sipa and he took a haircut. Both of them wanted to publicly make a statement that they're not acknowledging the Taanis. Because generally, a Taanis tzibur, a serious Taanis tzibur that the whole tzibur affects in themselves, accepts upon themselves. We're not talking about a Taanis yachid.
It was Chanukah.
So this was Chanukah. So generally with a Taanis. Yeah. So you don't do these things, but they did it. V'amru lahem, they told the people of the city of Lud, Su'u v'isanu al-mashe esanisam. You should make a fast for the fact that you fasted. That's what you should make a fast. You should make a fast for the fact that you fasted. In other words, you have to do tshuva for your fasting. You should fast for that. Why? Because you're not allowed to fast on Chanukah. What do we see from here? Rebbe Lezer and Rebbe Yeshua lived after the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash. Chanukah is one of the Yomim Tovim in Megilas Taanis because of a special event that happened during Bayis Sheni. It happens to be the most famous event recorded in Megilas Taanis, that and Purim. But it's one of the events of Megilas Taanis. After the Beis HaMikdash, people are fasting, and Rebbe Lezer and Rebbe Yeshua protest. They say you have to do tshuva for that. Clearly, loy batla Megilas Taanis. This is a great contradiction to Reb Rav and Reb Chanina who say batla. Rashi says, Yorad Rebbe Eliezer, v'Rebbe Eliezer v'Rebbe Yeshua acher churban abayis hava. Maybe they lived in the second base, time of the second base of Mikveh. He says, no. We know that in the days of their Rebbe, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that's when the second base of Mikveh was destroyed. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was the leader of the Sanhedrin, of the Jewish Supreme Court, during the Churban. The Gemarah Maseches Gittin has a whole story how he negotiated with Aspasionis, with his Vespasian, about different things. He got him to spear Yavna v'Chachama, and a doctor for Reb Tzadok and the dynasty of Reb Gamliel. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was the man who saw the Churban, and he is really responsible, probably almost single-handedly, for the transition of Yiddishkeit from pre-Churban Bayis Sheni to post-Churban Bayis Sheni. He created a structure of halacha that would commemorate the Beis HaMikdash without a physical Beis HaMikdash. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai has two students, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. So they obviously live after the Churban, and they are protesting a fast on Chanukah, meaning Megilas Taanis was not bottled after the Churban. You can't say this was in the middle of or at the end of the second Beis HaMikdash. Rabbi Yosef said, this is not a question. Why is it not a question? Shiny Chanukah. Don't compare Chanukah to the rest of Megilas Taanis. Shiny Chanukah, the Ike Mitzvah. Chanukah is not just a day that they made you shouldn't fast. Chanukah, the Chazal made a mitzvah. You have to light Chanukah candles. Not like all the other days in Megilas Taanis. There are days where you don't fast, you don't make a hesped. That is bottle after the Beis HaMikdash was charav. Chanukah is different. The Ike mitzvah, Chanukah is a mitzvah of adlokas Chanukah. What?
The same.
A mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles. So therefore, that mitzvah, the Chachamim didn't want to obliterate after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. They made a mitzvah. It's not just you don't fast on the day. So after the Beis HaMikdash, you'll fast. They would have to now be mevatel a mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles. That they didn't do. The Chazal kept up that mitzvah. But all the other holidays, Rav and Chanina may be right. Maybe it's bottle. At least there's no refutation from Chanukah. Amalei Abaye. Abaye tells Rabbi Yosef, 1 second, I don't understand your answer. If you hold that bottle Megilas Taanis, so there's a mitzvah. V'tibatel v'tibatel mitzvasa. If the holiday of Chanukah gets bottled, just like the other days of Megilas Taanis, you're saying the holiday, the festivity, the simcha of the day is bottled after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. So Chanukah is one of those holidays. V'tibatel b'meila v'tibatel mitzvasa. B'meila, the mitzvah comes as a result of the holiday. Abaya holds that the main takana of Chanukah is it's a Yom Tov. So you're not allowed to fast. You're not allowed to have a eulogy.
He used to say that if Megilas Taanis is good, why is it so not good?
Yeah. You're telling me the Yom Tov is not bottled because there's a mitzvah. The mitzvah comes from the Yom Tov. The Yom Tov doesn't come from the mitzvah. It's not like you first have a mitzvah and then you make a Yom Tov. First you had a Yom Tov and then you made a mitzvah to celebrate the Yom Tov. Right? Mm-hmm. So if the Yom Tov is not here, so the mitzvah goes. That's what Abaya asks him. Elamai, you have to say, Loi bottle Megilas Taanis. Elam Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said, Shani Chanukah. Chanukah is different than Mefarsim Nissa. The Ness of Chanukah became so public because it wasn't only you don't fast. Because they made the mitzvah of Chanukah, it became what we would call a household holiday. Every child looks forward to it. Every home looks forward to it. It became part of the fabric of Klal Yisrael. They felt that to nullify Chanukah, it's a pasnisht. You're right. The Yom Tov gets bottled. The mitzvah gets bottled. The Ness became too Jewish, and it would leave a sour taste to be mevatel such an experience. Rashi says, "The mefarsim nisa kvar hu golui l'chol Yisrael." It became a holiday for all Yidden, al yidei shenagu by mitzvahs, because of the mitzvahs of Chanukah. Rashi says Lashon Rabbim. Huh?
Yeah, Suda? We don't know.
Suda is not so poshet on Chanukah.
Geld.
Chanukah geld, latkes, mitzvahs is Chanukah geld, latkes, al hanissa. Maybe he means al hanissa. Be'echziku boike shal Taira. And the Jews actually adds, not just it was famous or was sentimental, they held on to it like a Tairidic experience. Like nochen levatlai. Could you be a technocrat and be at mevatel? Yeah. Like nochen levatlai. It's inappropriate to be. It would deprive the Jewish people from too much, to have a rich heritage and tradition. Shmak answer, huh?
You still say Asher Kiddishon of Mizveh.
No, the Chachamim decided not to be mevatel. The same Chachamim who have that koyach. The Sanhedrin decided this, not the Peseh Chaim Yankel from the Kishka store. Wanted to sell latkes.
What do you worry about the mitzvahs? Every night it's a separate mitzvah. The mitzvah is over the days.
No, in other words, the other days of Megilas Taanis, there was no mitzvah. They didn't become a church. Oh, that's what you mean. You say because every night. Okay. You say mitzvah Lashon Ram because every day is a different mitzvah of lighting the candles. Okay. No, the Gemara's Lashon was Ika mitzvah. V'tibatel v'tibatel mitzvasa. Rashi says Lashon Ram. So because of the Pirsum Nisa, Mefarsim Nisa. Now, it's interesting how Rashi learns. You could touch the Gemarah Mishum the Mefarsim Nisa that Chanukah was celebrated for Pirsum Nisa. They didn't want to take that away. That's not what Rashi says. Mefarsim, it became too Mefursim by Yidden that it would be not Nachin. It wouldn't be proper to take it away from the Jewish people. So therefore, don't bring a raya from Chanukah. So that's why when they fasted on Chanukah, Rebbe Lezer and Rebbe Yeshua went to take one went to bathe and one went to take a haircut. But other days of Megilas Taanis here, the argument still stands. You could still say that Batal Megilas Taanis, Rav and Reb Chanina may still have their position and say that the Megilas Taanis is Batal. Toisvis, v'yara Rebbe Lezer v'rachatz, mimasnisid al kisla v'pnei Chanukah lo hava leila kshuya. Toisvis asked l'chayra gewaldike shayla. Reb Kahana is asking a question on Rav and Reb Chanina. From what? He finds a story that they fasted on Chanukah, and Rebbe Lezer went to bathe, Rebbe Yeshua went to get a haircut. Chanukah could have asked an easier question. You have here a Mishnah that says you said shluchim for Chanukah. When was this Mishnah written? After the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Because the Mishnah says in the time of the Beis HaMikdash they used to do it in Iyar. Clearly this Mishnah is after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, as the Gemarah said earlier too. Right? So it says Chanukah. What's a Maisa with Rebbe Lezer, Rebbe Yeshua, and Lud? It's a clear Mishnah that we're learning now. What does he have to bring a rayim in Merchak Yavi Lachma? So Tosfos answers, you could say La'olam Loi Chashuv Yom Tov. You could say that Chanukah is not considered a Yom Tov. It's bottle Megilas Taanis. V'afilu hachi madlikin neida zeichel lenes. But the Jewish people used to light candles as a commemoration for the Nes Chanukah, even though the Yom Tov is bottle. I don't know, a yahrzeit candle, but that's what you want to say, like a yahrzeit candle. Now, what's pshat? What's pshat? Later, Abaya holds that the mitzvah of hadlaka and the Isser Taanis hatoloi zebazeh. Abaya says clearly, if there's no Yom Tov, get rid of Ner Chanukah. Right? So Tosfos is making here a distinction. Abaya himself says, I don't understand this vart. If there's no Yom Tov, there's no Chanukah. So Rabbi Yosef says, they didn't want to be mevatel because of farsiminus. But apparently Reb Kahana, who didn't ask this question from the Mishnah, holds that you could make that distinction. You could make a distinction between the mitzvah and the Isser Taanis. So in other words, you could say the Isser Taanis is gone, because Batal Megilas Taanis, it's not a Yom Tov anymore. But they held on to lighting the Chanukah candles. They held on lighting. That's how you have to learn that Reb Kahana disagrees. He says you could make a distinction. It's two separate things. I'll just add the Chidush Haran says that Reb Kahana asked from this Braisa because it says clearly you're not allowed to fast on Chanukah here. In the Braisa it says that he told them you have to do tshuva for fasting. In our Mishnah it just says they sent out shluchim. Here it says you're not allowed to fast on Chanukah. It's a din. So clearly loy batla Megilas Taanis. That's why he asks from this.
Are you allowed to fast today?
Zog the Gemarah weiter. So in conclusion, we have no proof from Chanukah this way or this way. Chanukah we hold on to, even though Batla Megilas Taanis. Meisve, next shtickle. Meisve Reb Acha bar Huna, Reb Acha, the son of Huna, asked a question on Rav and Reb Chanina who say that Batla Megilas Taanis. Why? Now we're going to have, for example, a quote of Megilas Taanis. You'll see here a new holiday that we don't know about because it's a Megilas Taanis. This is one of the days. Zog the Megilas Taanis, a quote. This quote is basically an example of what Megilas Taanis looks like. Goes through the whole calendar.
Megilas Taanis was written Bisman Bayit Sheni? It
was written during the Bayit Sheni, around the century before the Churban, by Hananya ben Chizkiah and his friends, and some things apparently were added later also, by other Tanoim who lived a little later.
Before the Mishnah, before everything.
Yeah, much before the Mishnah. Of course, hundreds of years before the Mishnah. It's the first chibur of Taira Shabbal Peh. That's why it's called Megilas Taanis. Reb Acha bar Huna, it says in Megilas Taanis, Bitlasa b'Tishrei, on the third day of Tishrei is a holiday. No fasting, no eulogizing.
Today we fast.
We fast, actually, yeah. We fast some Gedalia, we'll see in a moment.
Maybe because there was a certain pizzas gathered to write down before the time that they decided that they're allowed to. And that's why there's an Indian of the Taut.
Okay. By them was also l'chayr eis lasses. Bitlasa b'Tishrei on the third day of Tishrei, Ptelas at karta min shtoraya. They stopped mentioning Hashem's name from documents. At karta in Aramaic means mentioning, zikaron. They stopped mentioning at karta what? Shem Hashem from documents. And therefore they made it into a holiday. What's pshat? So the Gemarah, the Megilas Taanis explains, not the Gemarah, Megilas. Shagazra malchus yavan gzeira shaloi lahaske shem shamayim alpiyah. The Syrian Greek regime, when it took over Eretz Yisrael, made a decree that the Jewish people should not mention the name of God. This was forbidden. Famous Medrash, Malchus Yavan made a decree, Kisvu lachem al keren hashar, she'en lechem chelik b'lekei Yisrael. write on the horn of the bull, you don't have a part in Hashem's name. But here we see they didn't allow them to mention Shem Shamayim. When the Chashmonaim prevailed and triumphed over the Yevonim, over the Syrian Greeks, and the Gemarah was gone, Hiskinu, the Chashmonaim instituted Sheyehei Maskirin Shem Shamayim Afilu B'Shtoris. They went to the other extreme. They said you shouldn't only mention Hashem's name. Even every time you write a document, you mention Hashem's name. In other words, they wanted to go to the other extreme. Even though you're not supposed to mention Stam Shem Shamayim, right? We say Hashem. They said mention Shem Shamayim. Why? Because they felt that after the Gemarah, Eis Lasas Lashem Efedu Teresech, you have to go to the other extreme. That everywhere you should mention Shem Shamayim.
What name would they use?
Huh?
What name would they use? Yudke, Vavke, or would they write?
We're going to see. We're going to read. The Kacha Yekoisva. This is what they used to write in their documents. B'shnas kach v'kach leYochanan Kohen Gadol. In the year so and so of Yochanan Gadol, like we learned earlier in Rosh Hashanah, that in the documents you would write the anniversary, right, of the king. How many years he became a king? That's why we said Rosh Hashanah l'Malachim. You would start with Rosh Chodesh Nisan. In this and this year of the Yochanan Kohen Gadol, L'Keil Elyon. Now it was written with Hashem's name. Lamed Aleph Lamed. L'Keil, not with a kuf. L'Keil Elyon. I'm just saying L'Keil Elyon. It was written with Hashem's name. In this and this year of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, L'Keil Elyon to the God above. Now you have to understand why Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Yochanan Kohen Gadol was from the families of the Chashmonaim. In fact, he was Yanai. He was known as Yanai HaMelech. He became a tzduki. He was from the family of the Chashmonaim. He was also a Kohen Gadol. Or it could be that this is Yochanan Kohen Gadol, the father of Matisyahu. You could learn two ways. Bimei Matisyahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol Chashmonaim Yovanov, who was the Kohen Gadol after Shimon HaTzadik. It was Shimon HaTzadik was a Kohen Gadol at the beginning of Bayesheni, and then after that you had Yochanan Kohen Gadol, and Matisyahu was his son, and his 5 children were the Chashmonaim who fought the Syrian Greeks. Or Yochanan Kohen Gadol, let's talk about later, a grandson of the original Chashmonaim, Yanai, who became a pretty rotten apple. Alexander Janius, they called him in Greek. Alexander Janius. He hated the Chazalim, and it was a difficult time with them. Created almost civil war in Eretz Yisrael. So they would mention Yochanan Kohen Gadol L'Keil Elyon. Now Kayl is one of the names of Hashem that you're not allowed to erase. It's known as one of the Shiva Shemesh and Mccobb. It's one of the names. Elyon is also associated with Hashem's name. Why did they say Kayl Elyon? Some say it's connected. It says that when Avram Avinu defeated Sdoim, so he came back and Shem took out bread and wine, right? So it says Malchi Tzedek Melech Shalom Hoitzi Lechem V'Yayin V'Hu Kohen L'Keil Elyon. So you say Yochanan Kohen Gadol L'Keil Elyon. It's not stam they took out the pasuk. It says V'Hu Kohen L'Keil Elyon. So here you say the Kohen Gadol, he works for God. He works for Hashem. He's a Kohen L'Keil Elyon. And when did Malchi Tzedek say this? He was thanking Hashem for the victory of Avram over Sdoim. And this is also the victory of the Jews over the Yevonim. So that's what the Sifsei Chachamim says. That's why they chose this name of Hashem. You could have chosen other names. It's based on that pasuk L'Keil Elyon. So now what happens? Everybody is writing in every star Hashem's name. K'shashamu Chachamim b'davar, Chachamim hear about it. And they say, very nice. The Malchi Chashmonaim want to bring back Shem Shamayim, but there's a problem here. Amru, they said, L'machar, tomorrow. Machar doesn't only mean tomorrow. It means, like Rashi says, Yesh machar lachazman, the future. Ze pereyes chayvah. The borrower pays back his debt. No. The lender gets back his money. He has a document. So what does he do? Throws it in the garbage. V'nimtze shtar mutal ba'ashpa. He takes the document, throws it into the dustbin. On the document, you have Hashem's name. Huh? No, everyone tears up their documents. He tears up Hashem's name. He throws it in the garbage. Ubitlum.
You cut it out, throw it in Shem.
No, that's why we say Baruch Hashem. You do with a Beis Hey, and even Hashem is not Hashem. Just means the name. Why do we say Hashem? Because of this reason. You write Beis Hey or Beis Samach Dal. You want to mention Hashem, but we do it in a way that if it gets thrown in the garbage, it's not an issue. But that's not how they wrote it.
This is the reason why we write Beis Samach Dal?
Yeah. Yeah. Beis Samach Dal, Baruch Hashem, these types of things. It mentions Shem Shamayim. Hakol Kol Yaakov. Shem Shamayim Shago Befif.
Serpent.
But you see by,
So what happened? Ubitlu. So they were mevatel this. No more writing Hashem's name in documents. No more. Now the problem was nobody accepted it. It was too common. It was too entrenched. Finally, on Gimel Tishrei, they succeeded and they stopped. Jews stopped. They turned it into a Yom Tov. So this is a Megilas Taanis Dike Yom Tov. The day they stopped mentioning Hashem's names from documents.
Boya started it in...
Eis Lassus. Yeah.
The Boya did it like greetings.
Yeah. Huh? The Chassam Sofer, yeah, the Chassam Sofer asks, why Gimel Tishrei for more than, why Gimel Tishrei Dafka? I mean, there's a date that it stopped. Huh? So the Chassam Sofer writes in his Pirush on Chumash, he says that it's brought in Svarim that Aseres Yemei Tshuva are Keneged Aseres HaDibrus. The first day of Tishrei is Keneged Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. The second day Lo Yiyelecha. The third day is Keneged Lo Yisises Shem Hashem Elokecha Lashav. The third one of the Commandments. Lo Yisises Shem. You shouldn't mention Hashem's name in vain. So that's why they chose Gimel Tishrei to celebrate this Mitzias. Shem Shamayim. So it's interesting they turned this into a Yom Tov. What's the Yom Tov really? That Jews stopped writing Hashem's name in a star. Why? Because it's being disgraced, it's being embarrassed. It's going to the garbage, yeah. The Marsha adds another reason that it was a Yom Tov. He says that Yochanan Kohen Gadol was Yanai HaMelech. Yanai HaMelech murdered many of the Chachamim because they said that he should not be, there was a problem with the Chashmonaim. The Chashmonaim were Koyanim, but they also became kings. Kings are supposed to be from Shevet Yehuda, so there was an issue over there. So they felt Yanai HaMelech is not good for the Melucha, and he's not good for the Kohuna, and therefore he murdered them. When they took out Shem Shamayim from the documents, they thought maybe what he could do is say, oh, you don't want to mention the Kohen Gadol also, because you don't want me to be a Kohen. And there could be another tragedy. So that was also a Yom Tov, that it went through peacefully, the Marsha says. So Gimel Tishrei is a Yom Tov. Zog the Gemarah, V'i sal kedaitach batla Megilas Taanis. If you hold that batla Megilas Taanis, like Rav Reb Chanina, I don't understand. Then we have a big problem. What's the problem? Kamaisa bottle achranayasa moisifin. The first ones are gone, and now you're being moisif new ones. You understand the question? It's a very interesting question. Gimel Tishrei is what? Tzom Gedalia. In the time of the second Beis Hamikdash, what did they do on Gimel Tishrei?
Simcha.
It was a simcha, it was a holiday. So when it says in Megilas Taanis that they made a holiday of Gimel Tishrei, it means a new holiday, because it was already a holiday. So when did they do it? When did they make the holiday of Gimel Tishrei? After Churban Beis Hamikdash. Because during the Beis Hamikdash it was anyway a holiday. They don't have to make a new holiday. Tzom Gedalia became a holiday. So when the Megilas Taanis says they made a holiday Gimel Tishrei, it has to be when? After the Churban Beis Hamikdash. Because then Tzom Gedalia was not a holiday anymore. It was a fast day, or at least a voluntary fast day. So that means that after the Beis Hamikdash they were still adding holidays of Megilas Taanis. So he says this doesn't make sense. You're telling me that what? Kamaisa bottle, all the holidays of Megilas Taanis are bottled after the Churban. And now I see that they were even adding holidays after the Churban. This is ridiculous. Rav can't be right. Rav and Chanina can't be right. Do you understand this question? A very strong question. No. No, this is a grandson of the Chashmonaim. They used to write, at the time of the Chashmonaim, they used to write Yochanan Gadol Kaylie, and later they will mevatel it.
When he was still alive.
No.
They wrote after Yochanan Gadol Kaylie, after he was dead already.
Zolzai when he was alive. The question is, when was the Yom Tov made as a Yom Tov? Huh?
When they finished it.
But it was already a Yom Tov. Gimel Tishrei was already a Yom Tov.
They added the title to the...
But I'm saying it wasn't a Chiddush. It was already a Yom Tov because it's Sasan and Simcha. So you have to say that this Yom Tov was after the Churban, when it wasn't a Yom Tov anymore, it was a Yom Tzom, so they made a Yom Tov because of this, right? If so, how could you tell me Batla Megilas Taanis? That after the Churban, all the Yom Tov are irrelevant. Here we see, not only are they relevant, they're even adding a new one. You're telling me that they will mevatel the old ones, and I'm telling you, not only they're not mevatel the old ones, they're making a new one, which is much stronger than not being mevatel the old ones. They're like making a new holiday after the Churban in Megilas Taanis.
Maybe they just add the reason for the holiday.
Isn't some Gedalia also in Megilas Taanis?
No. Son Gedalia is a fast. What would be Megilas Taanis?
So we got opposite.
It's Megilas Taanis Yom Tovim. That's the question. That's the question.
No, but during Bet HaMikdash, he was assassin the Simcha.
And for the Gemarah, yeah, that's the vort. That's the vort.
They just add a reason for the
Yeah.
Yom
In the Beis HaMikdash, there was already a Yom Tov. Now you're going to tell me, you're going to ask, even though the takana was by Yochanan, you see it was the times of Yochanan, they used to write Kohen Gadol Kaylie. Kohen Gadol means it was a Beis HaMikdash. You don't have to bring... You don't have to bring an arayah for Rabbi Yochanan. Kohen Gadol means it was a second Beis HaMikdash. You could have write Kohen. You don't have to bring Yochanan. Stop. The word Kohen Gadol means it was a Beis HaMikdash. But nonetheless, Rabbi Acha Bar Huna holds that the main takana to make a Yom Tov was negeya for the tkufa after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, because in the Zman Habayis, Gimel Tishrei was anyway a Yom Tov.
How can the Chol make a Yom Tov in a Taanis day?
Ratzu Mis'aner, Ratzu Ein Mis'aner.
No, but Bet HaMikdash, he was assassin the Simcha.
After the Churban, that's what he's saying, after the Churban. So Zman Beis HaMikdash is beautiful. What's the problem? It's a Yom Tov. They extended the Yom Tov, yeah? And for the Gemarah, Hakama Mayaskin Bezman Beis HaMikdash Kaya. You have to say that the Maisa with the Shtaris was during the time of the Beis HaMikdash. We're soon going to get to the obvious question. It was the time of the Beis HaMikdash. In other words, Gimel Tishrei was not made a Yom Tov after the Churban. It was made a Yom Tov during the Zman of the Bayis. When there was a Beis HaMikdash, they made it a Yom Tov. Now it makes sense. After the Churban, Batla Megilas Taanis, including the Yom Tov of Gimel Tishrei, not Chanukah, including Gimel Tishrei. You said you have an ayah not Batla Megilas Taanis because they added the Yom Tov later. They didn't add it later. They made it during the Beis HaMikdash, and after the Beis HaMikdash, it's gone. Just like the other holidays during the second Beis HaMikdash, they're gone. After the Churban, Megilas Taanis becomes irrelevant. So Rav and Reb Chanina are right. Frag the Gemarah, or at least not right, but there's no refutation. Frag the Gemarah, the obvious question, typically the Havala Yom Shenerek Begedalia Ben Achikam. I don't understand. Even if they wouldn't have made Gimel Tishrei a Yom Tov, it's the day when Gedalia ben Achikam was murdered, which made it a fast day. And we learned before that so what did the Chachamim add by making it a Yom Tov when it was already a Yom Tov and you're not allowed to fast? So you have to say that they made it a Yom Tov only for after Churban Beis HaMikdash, because then it wasn't a Yom Tov anymore. If the Charaya Megilas Taanis was not bottle, and not only it was not bottle, they even added new ones. Omar Rav said, no, it was during the Beis HaMikdash. Lo nitzruche ela lesser shalafonov. It's a very interesting answer. Rav says, really, Batla Megilas Taanis. They never added this after the Churban. This was the middle of the Beis HaMikdash. What do you need 2 Yomim Tovim for Gimel Tishrei? It's already a Yom Tov. By making this day a special Yom Tov in addition to Tzom Gedalia, they made that you shouldn't allow to fast even the day before, Beis Tishrei. The holidays in Megilas Taanis were established in a way that day you're not allowed to fast, and the day before and the day after. It's like an Isru Chag before and an Erev Yom Tov before. It extends for both days, one before, one after. So by making Gimel Tishrei a special Yom Tov in addition to the natural Yom Tov because of Tzom Gedalia that became a Yom Tov, they added a new Geder. The Geder is you're not allowed to fast the day before Beis Tishrei. That's rough.
For us, it's Rosh Hashanah.
For us. For us. The Gemarah is going to ask a similar question. 1 minute. For us, it's Rosh Hashanah.
So the day before Chanukah, you also know why fast the day before Chanukah.
It's a Yerushalayim, it was not Rosh Hashanah.
Right.
Only Yerushalayim was not Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
Right?
Leave
only in Yerushalayim was not Rosh Hashanah. Because outside Yerushalayim was Rosh
Right,
Hashanah.
right.
Very interesting, even if they want to know why after this.
Yeah, okay, so we'll see in a minute. Okay, so now we have a very interesting mahalach here. The Gemarah wanted to prove that Batla Megilas Taanis, that Loi Batla Megilas Taanis, because they made it after the Churban. What's pshat? They made it after the Churban, even though the Yom Tov was made for something in Zman Habayis, but Zman Habayis was already a Yom Tov, so therefore they extended it. It should also be after the Churban, when there won't be Gzeidas, so therefore there won't be an obligation to fast Tzom Gedalia, because if there's an obligation to fast Tzom Gedalia, they can't make it a Yom Tov. But when there's no obligation to fast Tzom Gedalia, so if you don't accept upon yourself the fast of Tzom Gedalia, then you should have Tzom Gedalia as a Yom Tov. It's interesting. And if you want to accept Tzom Gedalia as a fast, then you could, and then you're not allowed to treat it as a Yom Tov. So this is a very interesting date, according to this Havamin, that after the Churban they make a Yom Tov for those who don't want to accept Tzom Gedalia as a fast day. If you do want to accept it, then you could accept it, and you're not allowed to make a Yom Tov. So you have a choice. Either you celebrate or you fast. There's nothing in the middle. It's not like okay, I fast, I don't fast. No, if you don't fast, it has to be a Yom Tov. You don't have such days in Jewish. It's from one extreme to another extreme. Either you party or you cry. There's nothing in between. You can't just sit with a stama face. There's no such a thing.
If you celebrate, then you also have to
celebrate good.
That it took the day before, you're also not allowed to fast as the celebration, no?
So that. So the Gemarah, this was the Havamin of the Gemarah, that it's really after the Churban, and that would prove that what Loi Batla Megilas Taanis. On this, the Gemarah says, no, it's not after the Churban, it was all in this Man Habayis, and they just added this as a Yom Tov in addition to Tzom Gedalia. Why? Because they wanted to add also the day before. For Tzom Gedalia, they wouldn't add the day before. The Gemarah is going to explain why. You're right, that's a good question. It's a good question. Stama Ha'ara, the Sfasemis is Meir. Shittas Harambam is that even in the Tasman of the Beis HaMikdash, of the second Beis HaMikdash, there was a fast on Tisha B'Av. Because he holds Ein Shalom doesn't only mean there's no Beis HaMikdash. Ein Shalom means, as Rashi says, that there's no, that the Jewish people are not independent. In the Zman of Bayesheni, there was most of the period of Bayesheni, they were under foreign rule. They were under Persian rule, they were under Greek rule, and then they were under Roman rule. There was only around 100 years that they were under their own rule, Chashmonaim. So therefore the Rambam holds that the concept of Ein Shalom existed even in the second Beis HaMikdash, and that's why we said that Ein Shalom Ratzu Mis'an and Ratzu Ein Mis'an. So he holds that Tisha B'Av was a fast day even in the second Beis HaMikdash. That's the Shittas Rambam. According to this, if in the time of the Beis HaMikdash there were times that there was no Shalom, and therefore Tisha B'Av wasn't a Yom Tov, you could say maybe that they made Gimel Tishrei a Yom Tov then. In those times of the second Beis HaMikdash, when Tzom Gedalia wasn't a Yom Tov, L'Shittas Rambam, because he holds Ein Shalom, so then you could say that's when they made Gimel Tishrei a Yom Tov. However, but that wouldn't work also, because in those times, the Yom Tovim and Megilas Taanis also wouldn't work. Remember, Rav and Reb Chanina are comparing the Yom Tovim and Megilas Taanis to the fast days. So when you're saying that the fast days in the time of the Beis HaMikdash are not Yom Tovim, so then Megilas Taanis is also not a Yom Tov. Just like Batul Megilas Taanis after the Churban, Batul Megilas Taanis in the times of Bayesheni that ain't Shalom. So therefore that wouldn't work, that they kept Gimel Tishrei a Yom Tov when Tzom Gedalia became Ois Yom Tov in the middle of Bayesheni. If it's a Yom Tov, so then Tzom Gedalia is a Yom Tov. And if it's not a Yom Tov, Tzom Gedalia is not a Yom Tov, that's also not a Yom Tov. So that wouldn't work. A very geshmak out of this. Fasemis, you wouldn't even give, even according to the Rambam, you wouldn't be able to give this answer that it happened in the middle of the Bayesheni. You have to say it happened after the Churban. If it happened after the Churban, you have a problem with Rav and Reb Chanina. So the Gemarah says, no, it happened in the middle of the Beis HaMikdash when there was a Yom Tov. Why did they add? They added to add the Taanis before. Frag the Gemarah, I don't understand your question. Shalafon of Nami, typically, the Havel Yom Shlachar Rish Chodesh. Beis Tishrei is a day after Rish Chodesh. Rish Chodesh is considered a Moed, is considered a holiday. So the day after, you don't fast. So therefore, why do you have to add a new Yom Tov on Gimel Tishrei? Because you want that the fast should extend a day before. You're already covered. Elamah, you're making the Yom Tov for that day itself. But that day itself is already a Yom Tov. It says Zman Habayis Sheni. So you have to say they made the Yom Tov after the Churban. After the Churban is the Charaya that Megilas Taanis is not bottled. That's the Gemarah's Shaila. And for the Gemarah, no, Rosh Chodesh Doiraisa. Doiraisa Leiboy Chizuk. Rosh Chodesh is a Moyed, it's a Yom Tov Min HaTorah. Dinim Min HaTorah don't need Chizuk. They're very powerful. They have a certain reputation and a sense of urgency by the Jewish people because it's a Din Min HaTorah. So you don't have to add a day before, a day after. The Tanya, we learned a Braisa. The Braisa says in Megilas Taanis, Hayomim ha'elak suvim Megilas Taanis. Huh?
No, Udoraisa
leboy chizuk. It's a statement. Rosh Chodesh is Doiraisa. Udoraisa leboy chizuk. Let's see Rashi. Rashi, typically, if the Beis HaMikdash exists, B'lavachi have a Yom Tov, Dainu Tzem Gedalia, Ukari Rachmana Merdem Tovim Bezman Habayis. It's anyway a Yom Tov. What do you have to make a Yom Tov? Lo nitzrich zok Rashi hada adu kavlu b'Megilas Taanis al davar zeh ela lesser esmol gamu b'Taanis. The reason they made it in Megilas Taanis is to add the day before. Kedamrin lekame we're going to see soon. Ayamamei laksovim b'Megillah lefneim ulachareim asurin. Haim, they are forbidden to fast the day before, the day after. Rosh Chodesh Zakrashi Moya Doiraisa. It's a biblical festival. Udoiraisa loy boy chizuk lesser lefonabel acharov. Avol yemei Megilas Taanis derabonon utzrichin chizuk. You know why they need chizuk? Keheicha the loy leisa lisanas b'yom tov atzma. A Yom Tov min HaTorah, I'm not afraid you're going to fast. A Yom Tov derabonon, it needs chizuk. It needs strengthening. How do you give it chizuk? You prohibit the day before and the day after, so you don't get close to fasting on this day. So that way, that day is secured. Megilas Taanis are Yomim Tovim that need chizuk. So therefore, the celebration of Tzom Gedalia that they added was that you shouldn't fast even a day before, so you won't come to fast that day too. Masha Ekein, Rosh Chodesh, you could fast on Beis Tishrei. Rosh Chodesh is just a day in and of itself. You don't have to add a day before or a day after. The Tanya we learned in Megilas Taanis, Hayam Meilaks of Megilas Taanis, these days written in Megilas Taanis, Asurim bein lefneim bein lacharim, you're not allowed to fast the day before and the day after. Shabbos is v'yamim tovim. What about Shabbos and Yom Tov? Hey Masurim, you're not allowed to fast on that day. Lefneim lacharein mutarin. Frek de Tana ma hefresh bein zelozeh. What's the difference? Shabbos and Yom Tov I'm allowed to fast before and after. The days of Megilas Taanis not. Halalu divrei Taira vein divrei Taira tzrichin chizuk. Shabbos and Yom Tov are obligations min HaTorah, the words of Torah don't need strengthening, and therefore you don't have to prohibit the day before, the day after. Halalu, the holidays of Megilas Taanis, divrei Sofrim, they're rabbinic, but divrei Sofrim, tzrichin chizuk. The words of the sages need strengthening. Why? So people should not come to denigrate them and treat them lightly, and therefore they prohibited also the days before and after. So therefore, if Gimel Tishrei would not be a Yom Tov of Megilas Taanis, you would be allowed to fast on Beis Tishrei. Frag the Gemarah v'typically the Havala Yom Shalifnei Yom Shenereg Boy Gedalia ben Achikam. Great question. Why do you have to add a Yom Tov? It's already a day you're not allowed to fast Beis Tishrei. Why? Because Gedalia ben Achikam was killed on Gimel Tishrei. During the Bayis Sheni it became what? A Yom Tov. If it's a Yom Tov, you extend it a day before, not to fast a day before and a day after. So Beis Tishrei is already a day that you're not fasting. Amar Rebashi, no. Gedalia ben Achikam divrei Kabbalah, v'divrei Kabbalah k'divrei Taira damu. The story of Gedalia ben Achikam, in other words, the fast day and the holiday is divrei Kabbalah. Divrei Kabbalah means words of tradition, which is a metaphor for the words of the prophets. It's called divrei Kabbalah. Divrei Nevi'im is called divrei Kabbalah. Why is it called Kabbalah? Because they received, the prophecies were received by divine inspiration, every prophet in his era. Zechariah Hanavi was Mccobb. He received a prophecy on Nevuah about the fast day of Tzom Gedalia and the holiday of Tzom Gedalia. So he doesn't need chizuk. It's divrei Kabbalah. It's like divrei Torah. It's like Shabbos and Yom Tov. So therefore it wouldn't go to Beis Tishrei. So mitzat Tzom Gedalia, it would only stay Gimel Tishrei. By the Chachamim adding, during the second Beis HaMikdash, a new Yom Tov on Gimel Tishrei. For what? For the fact that the Jews stopped writing in the documents the name of Hashem. What was the addition? The addition was that now Beis Tishrei also became Asur B'Taanis.
It's interesting, the Gemarah calls Rosh Hashanah Rosh Chodesh, even though Tishrei, we don't call Rosh Chodesh the problem. We don't,
Right.
we don't say, they say it's a Rosh Hashanah.
But here you have a strong question. Why don't you have to add a day before by Tzam Gedalia? Because it's Divrei Kabbalah, Ein Strichim Chizuk. Why do the Chachamim by their Yomim Tovim add a day before? Rashi says because they were afraid that you're going to fast on this day. So therefore they expanded it even more. So you'll go a day before. But 1 second. If this day is anyway Tzam Gedalia, and Tzam Gedalia is a Yom Tov, and it's Minat Taira, so Ein Tzarech Chizuk, so what are you afraid? What are you afraid of?
You just said different Kabbalah.
You just said it's Divrei Kabbalah, Ein Strichim Chizuk, and that's why you don't have to fast the day before. Why? That's why you don't have to aser a Taanis a day before, because people are certainly not going to fast. So now let's think what they did. They made a new Yom Tov on Gimel Tishrei, so it should be aser b'Taanis a day earlier. Why? So people shouldn't come to fast on this day, when this day itself is the Yom Tov Divrei Kabbalah, and you just said Ein Tzarech Chizuk. Fakert. The reason that Beis Tishrei wasn't Asur is because Ein Tzarech Chizuk. We're not worried. Gimel Tishrei is safe. It's going to be a simcha. Nobody's going to fast. People don't fast on Shabbos. People don't fast on Yom Tov. People are not going to fast on Tzam Gedalia. It's an interesting thing. And yet they make a new Yom Tov. Why? Only so they can add Beis Tishrei in the list of days that you're not allowed to fast. What do I care? What do I need you to add Beis Tishrei? Because you need chizuk. What do you need chizuk here for? If it's only a holiday of Megilas Taanis, I understand. People are going to cheapen the day. But now you're not have a problem. It's a difficult thing to understand. What are you saying? Loy plug. What loy plug? They're making a new...
In Divrei Kabbalah, once you come to...
No, but they're making a new Yom Tov. They're making a new Yom Tov.
If you're not Chodesh, then you won't look at the Yom Tov as also the Rabban Yom Tov. You're only going to look at it as a Divrei Torah Yom Tov, because you don't have that safety guard of the day before. You won't look at it because the Rabban Yom Tov, so you're not being Mechazik Divrei Rabban.
Right. The Sfasema says, a very geschmack of art, he says you have to understand it a little deeper. It's not stamp shot. They made a new Yom Tov. It's really irrelevant because it's already a Yom Tov. So now we want to know what's the relevance. So we say, oh, they added a fast day before. They added an Easter of a fast day before. He says the reason they made Yom Tovim was they wanted Jews should remember them, should celebrate them. It should become part of the conversation. Part of it, there should be an emotional response to the Yom Tovim. The problem here is the Gemarah says since Gimel Tishrei is already a Yom Tov, so it swallows up the new Yom Tov. Nobody's even going to remember it because, like we say, Ema Arvin Simcha B'Simcha. You don't mix one Simcha and another Simcha. Each Simcha has to occupy its own space. Once Tzom Gedalia, you're celebrating because of the transformation that happened with the second Beis Hamikdash being rebuilt. So by making a new Yom Tov on that day, you're not really making it a Yom Tov because people won't be able to experience it because there's already another Yom Tov that eclipses it. Avdem Zag the Gemarah, no. Because this new Yom Tov has an additional day to it, which is Beis Tishrei. So Mela, it has something that the original Yom Tov doesn't have. In other words, the Yom Tov, so to speak, starts Beis Tishrei. Even though Beis Tishrei is only an outgrowth of Gimel Tishrei, but it starts Beis Tishrei, so therefore you'll remember the Yom Tov.
When was it Gedalia killed? Before the second Easter?
Yeah, Gedalia was killed right after the Churban Bayis Rishon.
So it came from a Yom Tov.
The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed Tisha B'Av, and Gedalia was killed the next year.
Until after the Churban, there was a Yom Tov.
It was a fast day for 70 years. For 70 years, it was a fast day.
Bisman Habayis.
But then, Bisman Habayis, Zcharia Hanavi said that all these fast days are going to be Sosin and Simcha and Moedim Tovim, V'emes Vashalom Hahevu. So that includes La'asid Lavai, but it includes also during the second Beis Hamikdash.
It's still a little tricky because people could still think that this Beis Tishrei Vinishvi is because of the Divrei Kabbalah, the Yom Tov of Tzom Gedalia. At the end of the day, Tamidai is not Midaraisa straight, it's Divrei Kabbalah. So you can still think that now that they added the Chizik, the bases are now allowed, people are not going to realize it's because of this new Yom, that they'll think it's because of Tamidai is Divrei Kabbalah, it's not Mamash Midaraisa. They would think that that's the Chizik part.
You're saying people are going to think Divrei Kabbalah Tzrichim Chizuk, and that's why you're not fasting Beis Tishrei, not because
of this new
because this union of Gimel Tishrei. The Pnei Yeshua has a different vart, opposite vart. He says they wanted to make a Yom Tov for what happened. Gimel Tishrei was the time to make the Yom Tov. Once you're making such a Yom Tov, you have to also asa the day before. Why do you have to asa the day before? Because that's the klal by Megilas Taanis. You don't make distinctions. Like you said, all the klal of Megilas Taanis, you have to the day before here is irrelevant because people are anyway not going to come to fast. You're right. But they're not going to make a new gather that this Yom Tov doesn't go a day before. They're not going to cheapen the Yom Tov. Lepoil, you're right. You don't need it in this case. It's not like the other Yom Tovim. That's a different vart. That's how the Pnei Yeshua learns. Fasemis learns this. To answer your question, you have to say that I guess it was publicized that way. It was publicized that way.
His friends killed him, right? Not the guardian.
Yishmael ben Esanya, a Jew, yeah, from Beis David noch. Zok Rashi, Yom Shalifnei, V'halhu lav deiraisehu, uboy chizuk. On which words is Rashi going here? The Havale Yom Shalifnei Yom Shenerek Begedalia ben Achikam. Vahu lav deiraisu boy chizuk. L'cha'oira. Tzom Gedalia is not minat Taira, so that needs chizuk. So therefore, Beis Tishrei is already Aser and Taanis. On this, the Gemarah says Divrei Kabbalah get Divrei Taira, but the Hava Mina was that it's anyway and not a day of Taanis. On this, the Gemarah answers no. It is a day of Taanis because it's Divrei Kabbalah, and therefore they added this Chiddush of Gimel Tishrei. The bottom line is there's no proof that Batla Megilas Taanis. And there's no proof that Loi Batla Megilas Taanis. You could say Batla Megilas Taanis. There was a Yom Tov Gimel Tishrei. It wasn't after the Churban. It wasn't after the Churban. It was the middle of the Beis Hamikdash. So there's no proof that what? That Batla Megilas Taanis or Loi Batla Megilas Taanis. Either way, you could still maintain both shittas about Megilas Taanis.
Rosh Hashanah is the last day of Elul and the first day of
Rosh Hashanah could have been one of 2 days. Usually it was the 30th day of Elul.
So how do we do it today in the fixed calendar?
Today we do it differently.
First and second.
Then Beis Tishrei was. You asked about Beis Tishrei being Rosh Hashanah. Beis Tishrei wasn't Rosh Hashanah. Why? We're talking here Bisman Abayis. Yeah, we're talking Bisman Abayis. Rosh Hashanah was basically 1 day. Rosh Hashanah was 1 day because Elul was 29 days, and Rosh Hashanah was day 30. Even if you want to say Rosh Hashanah was 2 days, what's Pshat Rosh Hashanah was 2 days? Day 30 and day 31.
So,
Not Beis Tishrei. You understand?
Without Adam?
No, they were never Makabe without Eidos.
So how could you say it was going to be?
They used to wait the first day, day 30, till Eidos are going to come. If Eidos came in the morning, beautiful. Rosh Hashanah was 1 day. Day 30 was Rosh Hashanah, and you're done. And tomorrow was Beis Tishrei. Day 30 became Aleph Tishrei. You understand? Or Eidos didn't come. So day 30 became day 30.
Get the message out.
For Rosh Hashanah, they couldn't get the message out.
So what did people do?
Rosh Hashanah, they made 2 days.
When was that?
Oh, it was always 2 days. We're going around the
Was Rosh
circle.
Hashanah always 2 days?
It was.
It was always 2 days then.
It wasn't in principle always 2 days. In reality,
In reality, it was 2 days.
Not in reality, in Eretz Yisrael, they keep 2 days?
Yeah.
so they keep 2 days.
That's the one
Since
Yom.
when?
Yom Aricha, right? Aricha.
The reason they keep 2 days in Eretz Yisrael is because even in the time when they were Mekadosh the Chodesh al Pi Re'iyah, Rosh Hashanah had to be 2 days in Eretz Yisrael because the Shluchim couldn't make
When
it.
did that start?
It always
1 day or
started.
2 days?
If you were in a place where you didn't know, it had to be 2 days.
When you saw any places were able to be 1 day.
But that's not Beis Tishrei. Again,
It's Lamed and Aleph.
yes, Lamed and Aleph.
Yom Shabbos.
By us, you understand? In our calendar,
Why they were so infatuated about Beis Tishrei, Chaz v'Sholom, Shom v'Sholom fast. The Yom Shabbos of Achad goes in all the
because
time.
Sich and Chizuk, all Megillas Taanis, they made a day before and a day after.
Genetically modified.
Huh? Remember also, practically speaking, for us, a Taanis is a big thing. Then probably people fasted constantly. They didn't have so much food.
But they also worked, after.
No, I'm serious.
They worked hard though.
It's a serious idea. To say you're not eating from sunrise to sunset, yeah? Okay. It was a normal thing. It wasn't such a big thing. Huh?
Ramadan.
Sure, you see in the wood, we fast 40 days.
When they learn.
It wasn't a lot of food. It wasn't a lot of food. So you missed a breakfast, a lunch, and a supper. Today it's chas v'shalom. There's food everywhere.
Is that a,
Huh?
Christians don't have a fast, right?
No, just don't eat the meat from Holy Friday.
But even other religions.
So when the Chachamim said you don't fast, you eat something, it probably didn't make it yet a Yom Tov. They said a day before, a day after, 3 days in a row you should eat. Das ist Psamitzias. 3 days in a row you should eat, okay? Let's summarize. The Gemarah quoted a big machloikas between Rav and Rabbi Chanina versus Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. The question was, if Megilas Taanis, the 35 Yomim Tovim, that were established during Bayis Sheni, by the Tanoim, to celebrate various victories and miracles that the Jewish people experienced, and they created a halacha that you're not allowed to fast on these days, and some of these days you're not allowed to even make a hesped, a eulogy, for somebody who passed. If those institutions, of these takanas, if this sefer, Megilas Taanis, was bottled after the Churban Beis HaMikdash or not, Rav and Reb Chanina said absolutely yes, just like the holidays of the 4 fast days, which became holidays, were bottled. And Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said you can't compare. Those were bottled because the Churban Beis HaMikdash really destroyed them. You can't turn Asar B'Tevis into a holiday or Tisha B'Av into a holiday when you have no Beis HaMikdash. But these holidays of Megilas Taanis, they're not dependent on the binyan of Beis HaMikdash. They're not. Of course, it's Kishmak when there's a Beis HaMikdash, but the holidays still exist even without the binyan Beis HaMikdash. For example, let's take what we know, Purim. Purim is not cancelled because of Churban Beis HaMikdash. The Jewish people were saved on Purim, even if there's no Beis HaMikdash. So Purim is one of the holidays of Megilas Taanis. So Taka Purim we celebrate. Everybody holds we celebrate Purim. But their Taina is, it's not connected, you can't compare. So the Gemarah, thank you. The Gemarah goes now on a series of discussions questioning the first view of Rabbi Reb Chanina that Megilas Taanis was bottled. The first problem was Chanukah. We have a clear halacha that you're not allowed to fast on Chanukah. So the Gemarah said Chanukah was different because of the mitzvah of Hadlakas Neiris, and a mitzvah that became accepted by all of Klal Yisrael, and they felt it was inappropriate to take that away, even though the rest of Megilas Taanis was bottled according to Rabbi Reb Chanina. The second question was, from the holiday of Megilas Taanis, the 3rd of Tishrei, where they made a special Yom Tov. Why? Because they managed to get the Jewish people not to embarrass, denigrate Shem Shamayim by putting it into every single document, which seemed like a nice idea, but ultimately defeated its purpose, and therefore they made that a holiday. And the question is, if Batla Megilas Taanis, there's a big problem, because during the Beis HaMikdash, it was anyway a holiday, because it was Sem Gedalia. Zechariah says, Sasin of Simcha L'Madim Tov. So you have to say they made the holiday after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. But you're saying after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, there's no Megilas Taanis, and now you're telling me they made Nachanu Yom Tov after the Churban? On this, the Gemarah says that Rav Reb Chanina would say, no, they did it during the Beis HaMikdash. Ayah was a Yom Tov anyway. The answer is, Mitzad the Yom Tov of Tzem Gedalia, there would only be an Isser Taanis on that day, Gimel Tishrei. Mitzad the Yom Tov of Megilas Taanis, there's an extra component, and that is the day before also becomes Asr B'Tainis. Like all the Yom Tovim and Megilas Tainis, the Gemarah said it's Lifneim and Lachareim. It goes on both of them. Bein Lifneim, Bein Lachareim, it's Asr B'Tainis. The day before is L'chayda anyway Asr B'Tainis, because it's the day after Rosh Chodesh. He says, no, you can't compare that, because Rosh Chodesh is a din of Minat Taira, and the Raisa doesn't need Chizuk. You don't have to extend the days. Where Megilas Tainis is Divrei Seifrim, not a din Minat Taira. These are all holidays with the Rabbanon. It's Tzrichim Chizuk. He says, fine. But if it was a holiday already in the Beis HaMikdash Mitzatzon Gedalia, so that extended also to the day before. He said, no. Divrei Kabbalah is Kedivrei Taira. Words of the prophets are like the words of Taira in this sense that they don't need that chizuk. So this was the Haisafa, the addition of the Yom Tov of Megilas Tainis, according to Rav and Reb Chanina, that Beis Tishrei is also Asr B'Tainis. But after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, Batla Megilas Tainis, including the holiday of Gimel Tishrei. Chanukah is an exception.
Isn't some Gedalia Taanis Mitzvah that he was killed the day before?
That's the shit of Rabbeinu Yeruchim. There is a shit in Rishonim that he was killed on Rosh Hashanah. They didn't want to make a Tainis on Rosh Hashanah, so they pushed it off the day after Rosh Hashanah. Yes.
And according to that, it's fine, because that makes sense. The Beis HaMikdash, the Taanis was...
No, Beis HaMikdash was a celebration.
Right.
Beis HaMikdash was a Yom Tov. So the question is, Beis Tishrei...
Beis Tishrei and Gimel Tishrei.
Yeah. Sag the Gemarah weiter.
So we still don't fast Yom Tov and Motziyam. Nisuchai.
No.
Today somebody wants to have it's Minat Torah, and we still do one day before and one day after. We just said now, when it's Minat Torah, don't need Chizuk. What do we do it? Tachlis, in actual...
No, because Isru Chag itself has a chshivas.
Because it's the next day after Yom Tov.
It says Isru Chag ba'avoisim at karnas hamizbeach. So the Chazal say, Kol ha'oisa gudel l'chag. If you continue the Chag, ma'ilul v'akosov, Isru Chag itself has an inyan.
Not because of Chizuk.
Not mitzvah that it needs Chizuk. Not that it extends. Sag the Gemarah weiter. Meisiv Reb Tuvi bar Masna. Reb Tuvi, the son of Masna, asks a new question on whom? Again, on Rav and Reb Chanina, who hold that Megilas Tainis was bottled. What's the question? He now quotes Megilas Tainis again, another holiday. Be'esrim, and this again, these are holidays, as we said, that we don't celebrate today because we're not aware of these Yom Tovim unless you learn Megilas Tainis. It says Be'esrim v'tamnaya bei. Esrim is 20, Tamnaya is 8. On the 28th day of the month of Adar, basically Megilas Tainis is divided into chapters. Every month gets its own chapter. So once you hit a month, he doesn't keep on saying which month. He just says Bei, in him. That's why he doesn't say here it's Adar. You have to know what it says in Megilas Tainis. He just says Be'esrim, because he goes through a list of the month. Be'esrim v'tamnaya bei, on the 28th day of it, Asas psursa toiva leYehudai. Good news arrived to the Jewish people. The lo yi'idun me'oraisa, that they don't have to stay away from Taira. What type of good news was this? So the Megilas Tainis explains. Shegazra hamalchus gzeira. The malchus, the empire, the regime, which is the Roman government, the Roman Empire, issued forth an edict, a decree on the Jewish people. Shelo yasku b'Taira. They should not learn Taira. Shelo yamulu es b'neihem. They should not circumcise their sons. V'shelo yechalalu shabbos, and they should desecrate the Shabbos. 3 gzeiros. The Maharsha explains that these 3 mitzvahs irked the Romans more than any other mitzvahs, because these 3 mitzvahs set apart, uniquely, specifically the Jewish people. By Taira it says, Kihi chachmaschem ubinaschem le'enei ha'amim. This is your wisdom before all the nations. By Bris Milah it says, V'hoisel la'ois, bris, beini u'beinechem, it's a covenant between you and me. And Shabbos, ki ois, hi beini u'beinechem, a summit between you and me. So the Maharsha says, it's these 3 from all the other mitzvahs that really irked them, and hence they made this Zeta on Taira, on Bris Milah, and on Shmiras Shabbos. What happens? Ma also Yehuda ben Shamua v'chaveirov. What did Yehuda ben Shamua, one of the Tanoim, do together with his friends? Quite an interesting plan. Holchu v'notlu eitza mimatrunisa. They went to get advice from Matrunisa. Matrunisa means a princess, like an aristocrat, a Roman aristocratic woman, They went to get advice. Matrunisa achas, one particular aristocratic woman, but she wasn't just a regular woman. Shekol g'doylei roimi mitzuyan atzla. All the greats of Rome used to frequent her. They asked her what to do. Apparently, she had her finger on the pulse of Rome. You know, she knew Rome intimately, tarta mashma, and they asked her what she would advise. Amra lahem, what did she say? Bayu v'havginu, it's time for Havgana. You have to make a demonstration. Bayu v'havginu. Havginu literally means scream. Come and scream, shout. Balayla, at night. Somebody screams in the middle of the day, there's so much commotion, you can't hear them. At night, it's a quiet time, you scream, everybody hears. So go scream at night in all the streets. That's what you should do. That's what they did. They went and they demonstrated. They went out and they started to scream at night. Amru, and this is what they said. Ey Shamayim, like we would say, for heaven's sake, for God's sake, like Ey Shamayim, for heaven's sake. Lo yachechem anachnu, are we not your brothers, Rome? Bnei av echad anachnu. Lo bnei av echad anachnu, are we not the children of one father? Lo bnei machas anachnu, are we not the children, are we not both children of one mother? Why have we been set apart from every other language and every other nation that you issue forth on us such malicious and difficult decrees? Ubitlum, and as a result, Rome nullified these decrees. That day was Chav Ches Adar, 28th of Adar. They made it a Yom Tov. This is a classic Yom Tov of Megilas Taanis. What did they mean? Are we not brothers? Are we not the children of one father, the children of one mother? The Chazal always saw Rome as a perpetuation of Esav. Rome was, Esav is associated with Edom. He's your brother. Esav is a brother. So he says, are we not brothers? Esav is our brother. Are we not the children of the same father, Yitzchak? Are we not the children of the same mother, Rivka? So manishtaninu, manishtana, ha'umma hazeh, this nation from all the other nations of the world. This was the advice she gave them. They followed the advice and they succeeded. It's interesting. The Marsha again says that they said three things. Are you not our brothers? Are we not brothers? Are we not the children of one father? Are we not the children of one mother? It seems like a repetition, or just different. What's the point? So he says it had to do with the three Gzeras. One Gzera was Taira, one Gzera was Shabbos, and one Gzera was Milah. So he says, when they said, are we not brothers? They were being miramas on the Gzera not to learn Taira, because in Taira it says, Lo yisasayev adoimi, ki yachichu, he's your brother. And Malchus Roimi is connected to Esav. Are we not your brothers? The Taira that you want us not to learn calls us your brother, calls us your brother, and calls you our brother. The second thing is, Lo bnei av echad anachnu, are we not the children of one father? Yitzchak, your father, was circumcised when he was 8 days old. In fact, the first Jew to get a bris at 8 days was Yitzchak. Avram was 99. Yitzchak was 8 days old. Then he said, Loi b'nei machas anachnu, we're not the children of one mother. Because Rivka, we know, observed Shabbos. The pasuk says, Vayiviyah Yitzchak, Ha'yehela, Sarah imay. So we say that what? That Ner, she was like Sarah, that Ner Daluk, a candle burnt Me'erev Shabbos, La'erev Shabbos. This was a remez for the Gzeira on Shabbos. The Marsha says that's why they said these three things. In other words, for all these cheshbainis, you should let us learn, you should let us have a bris, and you should let us celebrate Shabbos, your own mother, your own father, and the Taira calls us your brother. And they were successful. This is the source from Allah Havganas. Allah Havganas. Huh? Yeah, they didn't throw eggs. They actually said something. But, yeah. And this was the eighth of a non-Jewish woman.
In the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night.
They harass people.
In the middle of the night. Now it's interesting, yeah. Rashi says, Havginu, Tzaku b'shvakim u'berechayves. Scream in the marketplaces and the streets. Kedei sheyishmu asanim v'yirachmu aleim. You need at the Sarim where the Senate, the Rome was run by a Senate. They were called the Sarim. They should listen and they should have Rachmanas on you. You would think sometimes such a thing can have the opposite result, right? So I guess that's in they took advice from a woman who knew the matzav. I mean, you can't know when this works, when maybe it's counterproductive. But she said this is the Eitzah, and they were successful. Like we would say, for God's sake, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu's sake, why are you doing this to us? No, what's the question? Here's the shaila. If Rav and Nebuchadnezzar are right, that after Churban Beis HaMikdash, Megilas Taanis was destroyed, here's the question. The first Yamim Tovim that you established during the Bayis Sheni, you're saying, are bottled, they're irrelevant, because the Churban happened. So now I ask you, so now the Megilas Taanis adds after the Churban new holidays? Doesn't make sense. If you're taking the old holidays that already exist in a Bayis Sheni, you're saying, once Gullah started, it's all over. So now you're telling me, not only are they not over, you're even creating new ones. Not only are you maintaining, for memory's sake, the old ones from the good days, in the bad days, when it's all bottled, you're creating new ones. That wouldn't make sense. If you hold that all the Teichen of the Megilas Taanis are not Shaykh to Gullus, so Madach, the ones that were in a time of Geula, you're still maintaining in Gullus. Here you're doing even much worse. You're creating a new one in Gullus, right? You're creating a new one. That's the Pella. According to the other shittas, it makes sense. Megilas Taanis was never bottled. Not only was it bottled, it continued. They even added, the Tanoim added new ones after the Churban. I mean, it didn't go for much longer. At some point, Megilas Taanis was sealed. But they added more. But according to Rav Nebuchadnezzar, it's a Pella. If you're going to answer, Hachanami, Bizmancha Beis HaMikdash Kayim, okay. Say that it was during the time of the Beis HaMikdash. Rome took over the Middle East before the Churban Beis HaMikdash. They were the ones who made the Churban Beis HaMikdash. So once Rome took over, maybe it happened before the Churban, and there was a Gzeira, and Chavches Adar was the salvation, and they made it in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, just like we said before about the Yom Tov of Gimel Tishrei, that they made it during the time of the Beis HaMikdash. The Gemarah says, here you can't say this. In the previous Yom Tov with Gimel Tishrei, it wasn't associated with a name. But here we have a name. Yehuda ben Shamua, who is the one who went with his friends to get advice about what to do. Talmidish Reb Meir. He was a student of Reb Meir. We're soon going to see how we know he was a student of Reb Meir. Maybe he was not. We'll soon see. Reb Meir basar hachi hava. And there's no question that Reb Meir lived after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. How do we know? So Rashi tells us right away the Cheshbon. Take a look at Rashi. Reb Meir basar Churban hava. The Gemarah means kamadoides. Not right after, a few generations. Why? The Habib Meir Reb Yochanan ben Zakkai Charav Habayis. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed during the era of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. This is not a question. There's a whole sugya, Meseches Gittin, Daf Nun Vav, the famous sugya of Kamtza Bakamtza, Perek HaNizakin, where we learned that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was there during the Churban. He managed the situation. He was taken out of Yerushalayim. He met Vespasian. He made the deals with him, etc. Next, Rabbi Eliezer Talmidoi Hoya. Rabbi Eliezer was the famous Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. In fact, the Gemarah says over there, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wanted to be brought out of Yerushalayim to meet Vespasian Aspasionis, who was then the commander-in-chief. Ultimately running the whole operation. Later, Vespasian would become the emperor himself, and they wouldn't let out anybody from Yerushalayim because the Kanoim, the Sikrik, and the Zealots were what? They wanted absolute war. So they had to, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai feigned that he was dead, and they schlepped him out on a bed. Who schlepped him out? It says Rabbi Eliezer was one of them. His Talmud, Rabbi Eliezer was his Talmud. So Krashi weiter. For Rabbi Akiva, Talmidish Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Akiva was a student of Rabbi Eliezer, the Gemarah says in Sanhedrin. Rabbi Eliezer was Rabbi Akiva's Talmud. Throughout Shas, Rabbi Eliezer relates to Rabbi Akiva as a student, and conversely, Rabbi Akiva relates to him as a Rebbe. This is Rebbe Lezer HaGadol, Rebbe Lezer ben Hyrcanus. He was ultimately put in Chayrim over the story with the oven and Baba Metzia, and who went to visit him. Rebbe Akiva went to visit him, his Talmud went to visit him, but that was their relationship. Weiter, Rebbe Meir, Talmidish Rebbe Akiva. Rebbe Meir was a student of Rebbe Akiva, Kedam Lina Bepei Kama de Erevin. The Gemara says in Erevin, Kol Mokim Shata Moitze, Mishum Rebbe Yishmael, Amar Talmud Echad Lefnei Rebbe Akiva, Einoi Ela Rebbe Meir. Wherever it says in Shas that a Talmud said a Shmua to Rabbi Akiva in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva were colleagues.
He was also brought down as Rabbi Meir.
Also, yeah.
Also brought down.
Rabbi Meir was a Talmud of Elisha ben Avuya, yeah. So Rabbi Meir is considered the Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Meir also had another Rebbe, as you said, Elisha ben Avuya, Acher, who he continued to learn from, even after he became a heretic, as the Gemara says in Chagiga. He continued to learn by him. But his Rebbe was Rabbi Akiva. So now you have Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the time of the Churban. A Talmud is Rabbi Eliezer. His Talmud is Rabbi Akiva. His Talmud is Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir is certainly after the Churban by Yesheni. If this is the case, Yehuda ben Shamua is a Talmud of Rabbi Meir. So he's certainly after the Churban by Yesheni. So this story of Chavches Adar couldn't happen in the middle of the Beis HaMikdash. It had to happen after the second Beis HaMikdash. Yeah, you hear how the Gemara analyzes the dates. If that's the case, we have a big problem with Batla Megilas Taanis. This doesn't make sense. Now the Gemara has to prove that Yehuda ben Shamua was a Talmud of Reb Meir. Maybe he wasn't. So now the Gemara goes off on another subject and proves that Yehuda ben Shamua was the student of Reb Meir. Zog the Gemara weiter. How do we know he was the student of Reb Meir? Okay, so here we come to a different sugya for a few moments, which is going to prove this issue. We have to remember a little introduction when it comes to Tumor, purity and impurity. As we mentioned a few times by us, the words Tumor and Taira are basically Chinese. But if you lived as a Jew in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash, Tumor and Taira was as relevant as today's Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv. It was part of the fabric of Jewish life, as B'dikas Chametz, as making a Seder. It was part of literally the daily fabric of Jewish life. Things becoming Tameh and things becoming Tahir. In terms of people, in terms of clothes, in terms of kalim, of utensils, and the halachas that apply to each and every one of them. Not only for Koyanim, but for any Jew, any Jew. Jews were going to the Beis HaMikdash. In a few days you'd go to the Beis HaMikdash, the Karban Pesach. You had to go. If you're Tameh, could you go into the Har Bayis? Could you go into the Azor? I mean, these were all issues that related to everybody. Somebody died in a house. Everything in the house was now Tameh. Everything. The blankets, the food, the drinks, the utensils, all the people that were in the house because they were under the roof.
Today, there's just no place for the
for the expression of it. Yeah. Expression of it. Okay, so now we have to remember a few yisoidus when it comes to Tumah and Taira. The Taira says clearly, klei matches. Any vessel made of metal becomes tamei min ha-Taira. Klei matches, you have a metal fork, a metal spoon, a metal knife. It becomes impure biblically. What happens if it breaks? What do I mean it breaks? It's not suitable anymore to be used in the way it's supposed to be used. Automatically becomes tahir. Why? The definition of tumah is only when the Kaylie is functioning as a Kaylie. Let's say it's a bowl, and there's a hole in the bowl. It's a Kaylie, it's a pitcher of water, and there's a hole. You can't use a pitcher of water with a hole. Yeah. If it's a Kaylie made to put in pomegranates, I don't care if there's a little hole. The pomegranates won't fall out. But if it's a pitcher, and you want to put in water there, now there's a hole, it's useless. It's a broken Kaylie. Automatically, it becomes tahir. Min ha-Taira. Came the Hakama, and they decreed a tumah if you fix the Kaylie. If the Kaylie is broken, it's tahir. It's gone. The tumah is gone. But if I now repair the Kaylie, so min ha-Taira, it's tahir. It broke, it became pure. You now repair it, lucky you, use it. The Chachamim said, no, if you repair it, it goes back to its original tumah, of course, unless you metayr it, unless you cleanse it. You could cleanse it in a mikveh. Or if it's tumas meis, then you need a more serious cleansing. You need a paraduma. But as long as you didn't cleanse it, it goes back to the original tumah, even though a second tumah didn't happen. It didn't become tumah a second time. That's a Mishnah in Masechta Kayla. What's the reason for this? Why would they do this? What did they care? You fixed your Kaylee, it's Tahir min Taira. The reason is because what happened was this became a regular method that people were using. It wasn't such a bad method. You break the Kaylee, you make a little hole or something, and you make it not usable, and then it becomes Tahir, and you repair it, and it's all good. What was their concern? Their concern was that often people would make holes that were not large enough to disqualify the Kaylee. If it's a Kaylee that's used for liquid, then a little hole disqualifies. But if it's a Kaylee used for fruits, right, you have to make a large enough hole. If you're just doing it to make it tahir, often they saw that people are not making large enough holes. In other words, the Kaylee never became tahir, and now they would just repair it, and they used it as Taira, and it was a serious thing. A kohen could put Truman into it. The Toma is now Toma. He's not allowed to eat it. All the other obstacles that are going to happen. So therefore they said, "So helft nicht. It's still Toma." This was the reason they made the Zeta. There was another reason they made the Zeta, and that is a Kaylee that breaks immediately becomes tahir. You don't need anything else. The moment it breaks, it's tahir. You don't even have to wait till sunset of that day. What's called hariv shemesh, it becomes tahir. What about a Kaylee that didn't break? It's a whole Kaylee, but you put it in a mikveh. You put it in a kosher mikveh. Here you have to wait till nightfall for it to become tahir. It's called hariv shemesh. Many things, even though you went to the mikveh, you still have to wait till nightfall. In other words, you need a new day. It's not enough that you're in the mikveh. You need a new day for the Taira to happen. They were afraid that if they're going to allow the Taira through breaking, so people are what? Going to use it right away, because you don't need anything else. People who didn't see the breaking think a Kaylee became Tome, you made it Tahir, and that day you can eat it right, you can use it right away, even if you went to the mikveh, even you put it in the mikveh.
Why don't they only guys Hariv Shemesh? They have the whole Tumor come back. You don't use it anymore. No. Guys are Hariv Shemesh and the power. Guys are that Chazars the Tumor.
But that once you had the first reason, that Bechlal the issue was, This is the Mishnah Masechta Kayla. Now we have one more detail here. Glass. Glass vessels are not Tomei min Taira. They're not. The Chachamim made the Tumah on Schuchis. The reason they made the Tumah is because you make glass from sand, liquid sand or other sands. Now, the classic kalim that are tamei are clay matches and clay cheres. Clay cheres are earthenware vessels. Glass is not an earthenware vessel. An earthenware vessel, you take earth and you make from it a Kaylie. You take earth and you turn it into a Kaylie and you bake it in an oven or in the sun. That's called clay cheres. Unlike clay adama, which is just plain earth, you just take mud, you make a Kaylie out of it, and then it's tahir. It's not Mccobb, it's so cheap that it's worthless. It's not Mccobb, that's clay adama. But clay cheres is earthenware that you actually bake it. It has some chashivus, not a very big chashivus. It comes from earth. It's not like metal, but it has some value, and it's Mccobb Tumah. Since clay schuchis also come from sand, and of course they have a prominence, so the Hakama Migoi Tumah on clay schuchis, glass. What happens if the glass breaks? It's Makabe, Taira, it becomes tar. What if it you repair it again? Of course, Minat Taira, there was never a Tumah. Midirabbanon, you would think the Tumor should come back. By clay schuchas, they were not geyser. Why were they not geyser by clay schuchas? Because the whole Tumor is Midirabbanon. Exactly. The whole Tumor. By clay matches, the Tumor is Minat Taira, and they were afraid that it's not going to break in a sufficient way with large enough holes that makes it tahir, so you have a serious Tumor. Here, the whole Tumor is Midirabbanon. So therefore, what's going to happen? It broke, it's tahir. Now you're going to repair it. Why should they keep the Tumor over here? They allowed you to treat it as a tahir dika Kaylie. So a clay schuchis tameh that broke and it became tahir, and it went back, you fixed it, it does not go back to its old tumah. Why? Because it's not minat tahir, and therefore they were not machmer with this tumah.
Clay schuchis is based on clay cheres.
Yeah, it's all based on clay cheres.
Then we have the same thing with Migoi and Achoira.
That's a good question. You're asking, Kol the Rabbanon. Kol the Tikkun Rabbanon came there. So why doesn't it have the same gather of Klei Cheres? By Klei Cheres is a din that, let's say, something that's tummy touches the Klei Cheres from the outside, it's not tummy. The only way it becomes tummy is if the tumor goes in the inside, even if it doesn't touch it, it goes into the avir, to the atmosphere of the Kaylie. Inside, the only way it can become tummy. That's why if you have a mace in a room, and the Klei Cheres is tied on the top, it's not tummy. Why? Even though the Tumas mace, even if the mace touches the Klei Cheres, it's irrelevant. It has to go inside. So if you have a summit puzzle, if there's a sealed lid, the Klei Cheres remains tahir. Only a Klei Cheres. Everything else becomes tummy from the outside. So you're asking why Klei Schuchis doesn't have the same halach if the whole Klei Schuchis comes from a Klei Cheres. The answer to that is, why is a Klei Cheres Mccobb Tumor only on the inside, not on the outside? Every Kaylie, a Klei Matches, metal, gold, silver, stam metal that we use, it's Mccobb Tumor anyway, inside, outside. The answer is because the other Kalim have value. Klei Cheres is extremely cheap. It's made of earth. What's its chashivas? Its chashivas is that it holds something else inside of it. It's that it's a Kaylie, that it's a Kaylie that's Mccobb something. Something else is contained in the Klei Cheres. Because that's its whole chashivas, so therefore, the outside of it is considered worthless. It's like clay glolim. You make a Kaylie out of dung. Poor people would take dung of animals and make a clay. It's not Mccobb Tumor. Because it's too cheap to be Mccobb Tumor. Tumor is always commensurate with chshivas, how much it's used by people. B'chlal, the holier you are, the more tumor, right? Because tumor always is attracted. I'm sorry. It's a whole huge Harkaman. There's a parsha Shmini. The sensitivity. The tumor is attracted. You don't go rob a schnorrer. You go rob a bank. You understand? Tumor is attracted to power of kedusha. So wherever there's more potential for kedusha, and there's an absence of it, there's more tumor. Yeah, that's why by a person more than by an animal, etc. Wherever there's more potential for kedusha, there's more capability of tumor. There's more sensitivity, and there's more depth over there. Right? Higher soul. The Gemarah says, "Kol hagadol mechavere yitzro yoyse gadol." Higher souls also can have bigger shviris, a bigger sense of shvira, because the demons want to get there because there's a lot of good food there. There's a lot of good nutrition there. B'meila, the more chshivas and the more it's useful by a person, the more it's Mccobb Tumor. So Klei Cheres, the only chshivas is what? Not on the outside. The only chshivas is what? That it has something inside of it. But Klei Schuchis is Shenachashav Kaylie. Elamai, the whole Metzias of Schuchis is not Mccobb Tumor min Taira. But once the Rabbanan say it should be Mccobb Tumor, it's already a chashav Kaylie. If it's a chashav Kaylie, it's Mccobb Tumor everywhere. But the reason they made Klei Schuchis to be Mccobb Tumor lechatchila is, what do they need it for? Because it's doima lecheres. Why is it doima lecheres? Because you create it from sand. Sometimes the mesuviv becomes stronger than the sibba. Sometimes the result is stronger from the sibba. Yeah? We learned Shavuos is more, Yom Tov Sheni Shalgaliyas is more Chama than the other Yom Tov Sheni Shalgaliyas, because it's Vadai. The whole Shavuos came because of the other Yom Tovim, but it becomes more Chama. So you have a Metzias here of Klei Schuchis with a different halach. What's the issue now? The issue is the following situation. You have a glass cup or a glass bowl or whatever it is. It became tamei, and now it broke. There's a hole. It cracked. Since it cracked, it became tahir. How did you seal the crack? You didn't seal the crack with more glass. You sealed the crack with metal. You sealed the crack with metal. What's the halacha? The Tanan, we learned a Mishnah. Klei Schuchis, you have vessels of glass that became impure. Nikvu, and they got a hole to the point that they become tahir. V'hitif l'soichan avar. The person poured lead into them. What? It was a glass Kaylie.
Since when does a glass Kaylie get a hole?
Nikvu could mean cracked. What does he say nikvu? He says cracked probably, no? Perforated. Okay. Always good. You use a fancy word and it works. Perforated. The glass gets perforated. Showing I didn't.
Thick glass. You can make it.
Okay.
It's not the today glass.
Okay. Where's Yehuda Nadal from? We need him. He would already Google and figure it out. You put lead into it. Amar Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Reb Shimon the son of Gamliel said, Yehuda ben Shamua metame mishum Reb Meir. Yehuda ben Shamua said it's Tomei, and he said in the name of Reb Meir. Let's understand, even though after you seal the hole, the clay schuchas did not become Tomei again, but it goes back to the old Tumor that it had before. You know why? Because you put lead into it. And therefore the halacha of the Kaylie is established based on that which holds it up. Based on that which strengthens it. And since you put it in with lead, you put in lead. And the Tumor of lead is what? Min ha-Taira. So you have an interesting thing. The lead itself wasn't Tomei. The glass Kaylie itself became Tahar and would have remained Tahar, even if you put in new glass and you repaired it. But since you put in now lead into it, so the Kaylie now has a new metzius. It's considered like a Kaylie of lead, and therefore its halacha changes and it goes back to the old Tumah. That's the chiddush of Reb Meir.
Why?
Let's see Rashi. V'chachamim mitarin, and the chachamim say it's not true. This is not the halacha. The chachamim say it's tahir. In other words, we treat it as a glass Kaylie, and a glass Kaylie has a halacha that if it gets perforated, it becomes pure, and I don't care if you repair it. You repaired it with lead, it doesn't change its status. From this brisa number 1, we learned that Yehuda ben Shamua was a student of Reb Meir. That's why he was saying a halacha in his name. And therefore we also learned that the holiday of Chav Ches Adar was after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Now let's see Rashi about the halacha itself. Zok Rashi. The Tnan, we learned a Mishnah, and this Mishnah teaches us that Reb Yehuda ben Shamua Talmidei should have Meir have. Klei Schuchis shenikvu. Shenitmu, the first thing you have to remember is they became Tamei v'nikvu and then v'nakvon, and he actually perforated them. He's the one who did it. He made it. L'tara mitamasa. Maybe this answers your question. Even if it doesn't naturally happen, he did it specially in order to be matahir. Aver oiferes, he poured in lead, listem esanekov to seal, to plug the hole. Yehuda ben Shamua metame, loimar, shechazru l'tumasan yeshana, v'afal pishalei nagu shuv betuma. Even though they didn't touch Tumor again, they become Tama. Even though glass kalim don't go back to the old Tumor when you repair them. The Zeta of Tumor Yeshana is only by metal. Hani nami here the status changes because you put in lead to hold it up. So it's the aver, the avar, which is a ferris, lead. Avar, not aver. Avar is ma'amidai, holds it up, so it now changes its status. It's not called a klei schuchis, it's called a klei matchis. The hakel hoylech acher ha'maimed. Reb Meir says everything goes according to the maimed. Maimed means that which holds you up. That which gives you, so to speak, your foundation, that which makes you a repaired Kaylie. So even though the tumah happened when you're a klei schuchis, but now what's your geder? Your geder is a klei matchis. And you were once Tomei, right? You were once Tomei, and it was repaired. So therefore you go back to Tumah Yeshana. That's Reb Meir's shit. V'chachamim mitarin. Why? The ikra karek leis chuchasei. Because fundamentally, essentially, this is glass. V'loi ozli basar hamayimid. You don't follow the lead, even though the lead is holding it up, is that which caused it to be repaired. It plugged the hole. Fine. But you don't go basar amayimid, you go basar ikr Kaylie, meaning the majority of the vessel is not lead. The majority of the vessel is glass. This is one interpretation in Rashi to explain the machlokes. Rashi continues, Ayin Aleph. You know what Ayin Aleph is? Inyan Acher. Another way of looking at it. Another explanation in the argument. A different explanation.
Until here, it only makes sense if you're going to say from now on, the new timber will be considered Klai Matzah because it's a Mama. But that was before. It was not the Klai Matzah. And that timber is gone. The new Mama, if you say it's Ikar Kaila, it's from now on. You want to apply a new din to something that's gone?
If you want to say balabatish, I can answer you that somebody, if Reb Meir holds you go acher hamayimid, and it's called matches, yeah. So you may think that, or somebody else may think that clay matches that became tameh, and it broke and it was repaired, becomes tahir again. In other words, you may compare it to other clay matches if you're going basar hamayimid. If you want to say balabatish. Inyan acher, another explanation. Klei schuches tahoiden shenikvu v'itilu l'seichen avar. The kalim of glass are pure, and you perforated them, and you put in lead. Yehuda ben Shamua mit Amon, Tumas klei matches d'iraisa. The other way around. The klei schuches were tahir. They broke. It's all good. It's all tahir. You repair them. How do you repair them? By pouring lead into them. Now they become tameh. Now they become tameh after you poured lead. This is the machlok. Yehuda ben Shamua says it has a din of clay matches. In other words, it's tameh min Taira. Im naga behen tuma. If after you pour the lead into it, tuma touches them, we don't treat it as glass anymore. We treat it as metal. The hakal hoylech acher hamayimid. Since these kalim are being held up by the lead, which plug the hole, they have the halacha of lead and Mccobb tuma like matches. Chachamim metarim. What does it mean, metarim? Not like we thought before, they say it's tahir. Metarim mitumas klei matches d'iraisa. They say it doesn't have the definition of tumah that's biblical as metal. Elamishum tumas klei schuches d'rabonon. They only apply to it the impurity of glass vessels, which are rabbinic by nature and not biblical. Why? She'ein klei matches tmeyin d'iraisa ela menuyin beparsha. Zov, Kesef, Nechoshes, Barzel, Bdil, Ve'oiferes. The only metal kalim that are Mccobb Tumor min Taira are those the Taira says are Mccobb Tumor. In Parshas, where is it? Parshas Chukas? Parshas Matos, right? Matos, where you have gold and silver and copper and Barzel iron and Bdil. What's Bdil? Huh? What is bdil?
It's just the word bedelium.
Bedelium? Okay, bedelium sounds good. We can cooking, yeah? Lamidba Lamed Aleph Chav Beis. Lamed Aleph Chav Beis, they come back from the war of Midian, and Elazar, the son of Aaron, tells them to what? To be metahir all the kalim. So he says the gold, the silver, the copper, the iron, the tin. The tin and the lead, everything that comes into fire, you should pass through the fire. So this is the halach of klei matches. Schuches, glass was not counted there. It's not Mccobb Tumor min Taira. The Chachamim were geyser, Tumor. Why? As we said, because it comes from sand. By the way, what's the difference if it's tameh midiraisa midirabanan? Is there a nafkamina? We know one nafkamina. If it goes back to tumah after it broke and it was repaired, does it go back to tumah or not? Right? Mm-hmm. According to tumah min Taira, the chachamim were geyser. Tumah midirabanan, they weren't geyser. But there's another nafkamina, and that has to do with burning karbonis or burning truma. Meaning, if a kohen has truma, he has, let's say, bread that was made from grain that you gave him as truma. Or you ate a carbon, you have a carbon pesach, you have a piece of the lamb, of the carbon pesach, and it touches a Kaylie that's tameh min Taira. Somebody doesn't realize, and they put the piece of meat in a Kaylie that's tameh min Taira. You have to burn it. If the Kaylie was only tameh midirabanan, then you don't burn it. You don't eat it, but you can't burn it. Because to burn a carbon, you have to have a heter of Taira to burn it. If it's tameh min Taira, you could do it. If it's tameh midirabanan, so then min Taira, there's no tumah here. Huh? You let it be. You let it be.
Also put it together, no?
Right. Because you don't want to be metame yet. Okay. So this is the second pshat in Rashi, a different pshat. The mile in the second pshat is what?
It's easier to understand.
It's simpler to understand because it already had the lead before, and then it was Mccobb Tumor. The problem in the second pshat is Chachamim metarin is difficult to understand because Chachamim metarin in the first pshat means they say it's tahar. The second pshat, they don't say it's tahar. They say it's tahar min Taira. So the words Hakama metarin are a little more difficult in the second pshat. Either pshat, we see that Yehuda ben Shamua was a Talmud of Reb Meir. So that means the Yom Tov of Chavches Adar was made when? After the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash. If that's the case, how could Rav and Reb Chanina say Batla Megilas Taanis? Gewaldige question. Yeah? And for the Gemarah, Tanoihi. The question if Megilas Taanis was Batla or not is really not a machlokes of Amirayim. We thought it's a machlokes of Amirayim. It's Rav and Reb Chanina versus Reb Yochanan and Reb Yeshua ben Levi. That's what we thought. It's a machlokes of Amirayim. He says Tanai, it's a machlokes of Tanai. The Tanya, we learned in Megilas Taanis. Another quote from Megilas Taanis. Hayamim ha'elu ksuvin b'Megilas Taksuv b'Megilas Taanis. These days that are enshrined are written in Megilas Taanis, where you're not allowed to fast and sometimes you're not allowed to eulogize. Bein bizman shebeis hamikdash kayim, bein bizman she'ein beis hamikdash kayim asurin. The Megilas Taanis says these days are forbidden to fast when the Beis HaMikdash exists and when the Beis HaMikdash doesn't exist. Divrei Reb Meir. This is the opinion of Reb Meir. Reb Yossi says, no, bizman shebeis hamikdash kayim asurin. When the Beis HaMikdash exists, these days are forbidden to be seen as days of mourning and grief. Why? Because these days are days of joy for the Jewish people. Ein Beis HaMikdash kayim. When the Beis HaMikdash does not stand, mutarin. You're allowed to eulogize and fast during these days. Why? Because these days become days of grief, of mourning. In other words, this Braise in Megilas Taanis is talking about a particular situation. And that is, there were people who used to bring wood to the Mizbeach. What's Pshat? When they built Bayis Sheni in the beginning, there was tremendous poverty. They couldn't afford. It wasn't like the first Beis HaMikdash built by Shlomo HaMelech. To the point that the Gemarah says that the elderly Jews who saw the second Beis HaMikdash being built, but they still remembered 70 years ago, if they were 80 or 90 years old, they remembered what the first Beis HaMikdash looked like, they were crying. They were crying because they said, how could you compare? How could you compare the second to the first? Yeah. The poverty was so profound they couldn't even afford lumber, and you need lumber. That's the most important, one of the most important items, because Eish Tamid took it on the Mizbeach. You had to have a perpetual fire on the Mizbeach. So what happened? There were individual Jewish families who donated lots of lumber to the Beis HaMikdash to be used in the Beis HaMikdash, and they would make a Yom Tov that day that they would donate. And what happened was, this is called Zman Atzei Kayanim. Throughout Bayis Sheni, because of their situation, because of their donation, they would always celebrate this day as a Yom Tov. This day became the Yom Tov when they donated wood for the Mizbeach. So Rabbi Yossi says, after Churban Beis HaMikdash, the celebration stops. Why? Because it's Avel Hu Lahem. It becomes a day of mourning. Why? Because it reminded them that there's no Beis HaMikdash and there's no wood for the Mizbeach. They allowed them to always, perpetually, throughout Bayis Sheni, bring wood on this day when they brought it the first time, and it was a Yom Tov for them. They wouldn't fast, they would make a Suda. There was different Jewish families. There's a Mishnah in Taanis. They would go through all the days there. So Rabbi Yossi says the other holidays in Megilas Taanis also, because many of them, or most of them, are somehow connected, in his opinion, to the Mizbeach, to the Beis HaMikdash, and therefore it creates an oval. And therefore, since most of the Mayadim were bottled, they already mevatel everything. Or, you could say that even the Yamim Tovim that were not connected to the Beis HaMikdash, nonetheless, after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, they became days of oval, because every Yom Tov became a day of oval. Why? Because they remembered the Yom Tov when they did it during the time of the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore, Rabbi Yossi says it was cancelled. Reb Meir says not. So we have clearly a machlokes atanoyim if Batla Megilas Taanis after the Churban or not. So now we have no problem. The Braisa that says that Chavches Adar was a Yom Tov, and when was the Yom Tov made? After Churban Beis HaMikdash by Yehuda ben Shamua and his friends. This follows the shit of Reb Meir. So Rabbi Yehuda ben Shammua, he made the Yom Tov of Chavches Adar because he followed Reb Meir. Reb Meir holds loy batla Megilas Taanis, and therefore he made a new Yom Tov even after the Churban. If you would ask Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi would say, no way. Not only can't you make a new Yom Tov, even the old ones don't celebrate anymore. So it's a machlekes Tanoim. So now the question is, Rav Reb Chanina, you have a question on them from the Rabbi Yehuda ben Shammua. They follow the shit of Rabbi Yossi. They follow the shit of the. Is there another shit? Yeah, there's another shit. That's what the Gemarah answers. There's two shittas about Megilas Taanis. Now the question is, what's the halacha? The Gemarah says, "V'hilchisa." The halacha is. This is a fascinating expression now. V'hilchisa, the halacha is botlu. The halacha is that Megilas Taanis is botlu. All the Yom Tovim are botlu. V'hilchisa and the halacha is loy botlu. They're not botlu. Okay. So this is what quantum mechanics. The halacha is botlu, and the halacha is it's not botlu. Frag the Gemarah, kasha hilchasa. You have here a problem. Sounds confusing. Yeah, this sounds confusing. It's a contradiction from one halacha against another halacha. You tell me the halacha is that Megilas Taanis is gone. It's irrelevant. Then you tell me the halacha is it's not relevant. What's pshat? And for the Gemarah loy kash, kan b'Chanukah Purim, kan b'Shar Yomi. When you said the halacha is that Megilas Taanis is loy batla, it's talking about Chanukah and Purim, which are miracles that are recorded in Megilas Taanis. The miracles of those days became so public, like we learned before about Chanukah, and here we just have an addition of Purim. They did not feel they could take away these Yomim Tovim. After the Churban Beis HaMikdash, they could not take away Purim from Klal Yisrael. It would have been too much of a clap, it became too famous, it became too entrenched. Why? Because these Yom Tovim are not just days when you don't fast. There's Shalach Manas, and Matanas Levyonim, and Megillah, and so there's Purim, there's lighting Chanukah candles, there's saying Hallel, Ala Nisim, whatever you do on Chanukah and Purim, it became entrenched in Klal Yisrael. Rashi says it was like Shal Taira, they wouldn't take it away. Kan, when it says Halacha, Batla Megilas Taanis is B'Shar Yomi. All the other days of Megilas Taanis, for example, we learned Gimel Tishrei, we learned Chavches Adar, all the other halachas, all the other days is Batla Megilas Taanis. In other words, today you're allowed to fast during those days. You're allowed to make eulogies during those days. They're not considered Yomim Tovim anymore.
Tu B'Av is part of it? Tu B'Av is what?
L'hoy Yomim Tovim L'Yistakach Chamisha Sabah V'Chim HaKippurim.
From where did he come? So when did he start? Since Yitzhak Mitzrayim?
It was during Bayis Rishon already. Yeah. During Bayis Rishon. Zok Rashi, Tanoihi ibatl Megilas Taanis, a machlokes of Tanoim ibatl Megilas Taanis. Now, according to the conclusion that Chanukah and Purim is loy batla Megilas Taanis, there is one detail to be mentioned, and that is, we learned that all the holidays of Megilas Taanis, you're not allowed to fast the day before, you're not allowed to fast the day after. But the fact is that when it comes to Chanukah and Purim, are you allowed to fast out of Chanukah? You're not allowed to fast out of Chanukah. L'chayda, mitzad Megilas Taanis, you're not allowed to fast out of Chanukah, because we said it goes the day before, the day after, right? But Shmuel, the Gemarah in Masechta Taanis brings la halacha from Shmuel, that it's not true. That Chanukah and Purim, even though it's not bottle, the days before and after are not Asur b'Taanis. Even though Rabbi Yochanan over there argues and he says the days before are Asur and Taanis, but nonetheless, because we see that all of Megilas Taanis is bottle b'Zman Hazeh, so even though Legabe Chanukah and Purim, we continue the Megilas Taanis, but we are lenient about that detail, that you don't have to extend the Issur to the day before and the day after, and therefore Erev Chanukah or a day after Chanukah, you're allowed to fast, and that's the reason we're allowed to fast when? Taanis Esther. L'chayda, you're not allowed to fast Taanis Esther. Why? Because it's the day before Purim. So you're not allowed to fast Megilas Taanis. That's why you won't have in Gemarah the Mashal or Mishnah, you don't have a mention of Taanis Esther. Now the Mishnah and Gemarah is already after the Churban. So if you say loy batla Megilas Taanis, we can understand. Even if you say batla Megilas Taanis, but Purim it wasn't batla. Purim, everybody says it wasn't batla. Why could we fast Taanis Esther? The answer is because since the whole Megilas Taanis was batla halacha, they were mevatel this detail that the Taanis is usher even the day before or the day after. That's what the Ritva says here.
He said yesterday, we don't know exactly when it started.
Oh, so that means during Bayesheni, when Megilas Taanis was loy botla, they couldn't do Taanis Esther before. They couldn't do Taanis Esther before. And those who hold loy botla Megilas Taanis completely, nothing. So l'chayra put him also continued, right? So Taanis Esther is a different gather of a Taanis. Taanis Esther is a different gather.
In our generation, nobody thinks that he's.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Okay, but nobody knows because it's battle.
Our generation, what?
We don't. None of this Yamim Tevim we do.
Megilas Taanis, right? Chanukah and Purim we do.
Yeah.
Chanukah and Purim we do. Tosfos has an interesting order here. Harab Yehuda ben Shamua Talmidu Shereb Meir. Take a look, Yutesam at Aleph. You see, Harab Yehuda ben Shamua Talmidu Shereb Meir. Since Rabbi Yehuda ben Shamua was a Talmud of Reb Meir, the question is how we could make a Yom Tov after Churban Bayesheni. So Tosfos says, Toma. The Peirik say the Taanis in Masechta Taanis. The Gemarah says Ketzad. Peirik say the Taanis Ketzad. Parach, he asks a question there. Esrim v'tisha nami. My area. The Gemarah says that the 29th of Adar is Asr B'Taanis. Why? The Havale Yoime Mekame de Itukim Tmida. Interesting question. One of the holidays of Megilas Taanis goes from Rosh Chodesh Nisan through 8 Nisan. Why? The Tzedukim had a fight with the Chachamim, and they said everybody donates, different weeks people donate carbon tumors. And they said no, it has to come from all of Klal Yisrael. When they won the debate, they made a Yom Tov. From Rosh Chodesh Nisan to Ches Nisan, I guess they won the debate. So the Gemarah says that the 29th of Adar is Asr B'Taanis. Why? Because it's the day before Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is the holiday of Megilas Taanis from Rosh Chodesh. So the day before is Asr B'Taanis. So the Gemarah says, my area. Why does he say that it's Asr B'Taanis? The Havale Yom Mekame de Itukim Tmida. Typically, the Havale Yom the Basar Esr B'Tamniya. Say the other way. It's a day after Chav Ches Adar. Chav Tes Adar is a day after Chav Ches Adar. You're saying Chav Ches Adar is a Yom Tov, so the day after is also. Why do you have to go later and say it's a day before Rosh Chodesh Nisan? Even without that, it's a day after Chav Ches Adar. Rektois is my kusha. What question is this? Ha'idi took him to me. There's a hayib is mancha beis hamikdash kaya. The din, the Yom Tov that happened because they established the halachas about carbon tumid happened, of course, when the beis hamikdash stood, because that's when you made a carbon tumid. After the churban, it was irrelevant. There was no carbon tumid anymore. The story of Chav Ches Adar, Hayab made Rabbi Yehuda ben Shamua Talmid Shereb Meir. It was the time of Rabbi Yehuda ben Shamua that stood in the Reb Meir. So why is the Gemarah saying that don't make Chav Tes Adar a day when you don't fast because Rosh Chodesh Nisan? Do it because of Chav Ches Adar. L'cha'ayre, there's a big mile in doing it because of Rosh Chodesh, because it happened much earlier. In other words, the Isser Taanis and Chav Tes Adar Mitzad Rosh Chodesh Nisan happened years earlier than the Isser Taanis Mitzad Chav Ches Adar. What type of question of the Gemarah is this in the Masechta Taanis? How could the Gemarah ask such a question? You can't. Doesn't make sense. This happened hundreds of years before, or certainly many decades before. V'yashloimar de mikol makoim Rebbe shesidir hamishna loyhava le'lemisna meireish yarchad enisim kivan de biyam of hayashalei l'tzayich. The question is, Rebbe is the one who says in the Mishnah that Esrim v'tisha ba'ada you don't fast. So he says, Rebbe who made the Mishnah, he shouldn't have said, actually not in Megilas Taanis, he's calling Megilas Taanis a Mishnah here. Rebbe, who was Masada the Mishnah, should have not said in Megilas Taanis that Meireish Yarchad Nisan, that it's Asr because of Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Why? Given the Biyam of Hayashalei L'Tzayrach. In his days it was already irrelevant. In his days it was after the Churban Beis HaMikdash. It was already Batul HaTamid. So therefore, if Batul HaTamid, you're not going to Asr because of that the day before Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, the Shaila is, in his day, it was already irrelevant. That's the Shaila of the Gemarah. You have to know what's Pshat. Rebbe Siddur HaMishnah, Rebbe didn't write Megilas Taanis. That's Shtikal Apella here on Tosfos.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.